Chapter 1158. Longao didn't say anything and listened quietly. The Lewin clan suddenly disappeared for some reason. Some people said that the Lewin clan was sealed by heaven and earth. To this day, no one knew the reason. As for the Lewin clan expert, his whereabouts are also unknown. However, he left behind a huge round plate that can open the door to the Lewin clan. From there, one can enter the Lewin clan and obtain the inheritance of the Lewin clan to become the most powerful martial artist in the world. What did this have to do with his bloodline? Longao didn't ask or interrupt. Long Fu, who had been silent all this time, said, "Master, we have been sensing your bloodline for a long time. Although we can't be sure, we are half sure that your bloodline is from the Lewin clan." F***ck. He cursed in his heart. What did Long Fu mean? That meant that he was from the Lewin clan, the most powerful clan in the world. Was it possible? Was it real? Everything seemed so surreal. Longao, I know this is a little unbelievable, but it is the truth. As for whether you are from the Lewin clan, we will know soon. Longao knew what Xiling was talking about. The way to test whether he was from the Lewin clan was simple. He had to use his bloodline to open the round plate. If he could open it, then there was no doubt that he was from the Lewin clan. If he couldn't open the round plate, then it had nothing to do with him. Longao didn't use his bloodline to open the round plate immediately because there were still many things that he didn't know. Even if his bloodline could open the disc, his identity was still a little too shocking. He had been in the Long family since he was young. Since when did he come from the Lewin clan? Violet Spirit, Long Fu, if my bloodline can open the disc, does that mean that I am a reincarnator and that my original body in my previous life was a member of the reincarnation clan? Long Fu and Xiling nodded. Longao knew that Long Fu and Xiling had no reason to lie to him. Longao, once the marvelous mathematician in the way of the heavens find out about your identity, I'm sure they won't let you go. They'll use your blood to find the reincarnation tribe. Regarding this point, Longao could also guess. Longao was very clear that apart from the four of them, no one else could know about this matter. Otherwise, there would be big trouble. Return to the clan, the most powerful race in the world. The master of the disc was the most powerful being of the Samsara clan. Even the god diviner and the heavens were like ants in front of this supreme being. At this moment, Longao was a little confused. When did he become a member of the Lewin clan? Mysterious young man? You three, wait a moment. I have something to do. As if thinking of something, Longao immediately entered the space of the wordless heavenly book. This time, Longao did not hide anything, nor did he hesitate. He immediately said, "You said that I'm your 100th reincarnation, which means that you're my 100th reincarnation. Since that's the case, aren't you a member of the Lewin clan?" Under normal circumstances, no matter what Longao did, the mysterious young man would not easily appear. At this moment, as soon as the words Lewin clan were said, the mysterious young man's figure suddenly appeared. He seemed a little surprised. He said, "I really didn't expect that you would know about this so quickly. Longao, according to my estimation, you're the most powerful person in the Tianwu continent to know about this." Unexpectedly. Hearing the mysterious young man's words, Longao was sure that the mysterious young man also knew about the Lewin clan. Was he really the mysterious young man's 100th reincarnation? Was he really a member of the Lewin clan? If this matter spread out, would people choose to believe it? Longao, I'm very curious. How did you know? The disc? The disc? The mysterious young man did not know about the disc? He did not know about the disc, but he knew about the Lewin clan. Looking at the confused young man, Longao was a little cautious. If the mysterious young man did not even know about the disc, it was hard to say whether what he said was true or not. As if he thought of something, the mysterious young man was a little surprised and excited. He asked, "Are you talking about the reincarnation disc? Was the disc the reincarnation disc?" Longao told the young man about the reincarnation disc's appearance and aura. After hearing it, the young man nodded his head in surprise. He could not wait to ask, "Longao, where is the reincarnation disc?" "It's outside." "Longao, I can tell you clearly now. The reincarnation disc is the most precious treasure of the Lewin clan. If you can get the reincarnation disc, not only can you open the Lewin clan, You can even obtain the inheritance of the Luin clan and become the patriarch of the Luin clan. After saying that, the mysterious young man continued, the person who has the reincarnation disc and obtains the inheritance of the Luin clan will become the strongest martial artist in the world. I see. After hearing the mysterious young man's words, if one did not want to get the reincarnation disc, inherit the inheritance of the Luin clan, and become the strongest martial artist in the world, it would be a lie. Even Longao was not an exception. Longao was very clear that since he was a member of the Luin clan, it was natural for him to obtain the inheritance of the Luin clan and own the reincarnation disc. Moreover, the reincarnation disc was right in front of him. It seemed like it was his good fortune. If he missed it, even he would despise himself. I will get the reincarnation disc. Senior, there is something I would like to know. The mysterious young man waved his hand as if he could guess what Longao wanted to ask. He said, very few people know about the Luin clan. If you want to know, you have to work hard and strive to reach the peak of the martial Tao as soon as possible. Otherwise, you will have to integrate the reincarnation disc and inherit the inheritance of the Luin clan. He cursed in his heart. If he could integrate the reincarnation disc, inherit the inheritance of the Luin clan, and become the leader of the Luin clan, would he still need to ask you? Since the mysterious young man did not want to say more, Longao did not ask further. One day, he would find out everything. Longao still did not completely believe the mysterious young man's words. After leaving the wordless heaven book, Longao knew that the huge disc in front of him was the reincarnation disc. He believed that even Xiling and Long Fu did not know about this. Otherwise, Long Fu and Xiling would not be so calm. Longao did not tell them about the reincarnation disc. He looked at the three people in front of him and said, I understand what you mean. After I open the disc and enter, the treasure inside will belong to me. As for the power, it will belong to you. We will each take what we need, right? Chapter 1159. That's right. Since things had come to this point, there was no need to continue hiding it. Next, Longao first rested for a while. Then he poured the blood in his body into the huge disc, which was the so-called reincarnation disc. Before the four of them could react, the huge disc suddenly exploded with a terrifying power. The power of reincarnation. Sensing this power, both Xiling and Long Fu exclaimed in unison, unbelievable. The power of reincarnation was only a legend. Xiling and Long Fu had never thought that one day they would be able to sense the so-called power of reincarnation. Although he did not know what the power of reincarnation was, Longao could guess that the so-called power of reincarnation must have come from the power left behind by the super expert of the reincarnation clan. Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu did not dare to stay any longer. It turned out that Longao did not know that the three weapon spirits did not know that the power of reincarnation was the nemesis of all weapon spirits. If the three weapon spirits did not leave in time, only death would await them. Before Longao could figure out what was going on, the power of reincarnation had already enveloped him. Swoosh! Longao's body instantly disappeared, and the huge disc returned to normal. Time trickled by. After an unknown period of time, a black shadow flashed, and Long Batian appeared in front of the huge disc. Looking at the huge disc, Long Batian muttered to himself, the reincarnation clan. Even the clairvoyant and Tian Dao do not know. Longao, I hope you can find the reincarnation clan. At this point, Long Batian stopped abruptly, as if he wanted to say something. If Longao was here and heard the old ancestor's words, who knew what he would think? After all, why did the old ancestor know about the reincarnation clan, but Tian Dao and the clairvoyant did not? Sky Martial Continent. The establishment of the Dragon Sex branch did not cause any commotion, because in the vast Sky Martial Continent, the establishment of a small sect would not even be noticed by a third-rate force, let alone a tripod. He had to admit that Longying and Duguo Bai did indeed have the ability to lead. The two of them were very clear about the Martial Heaven Continent situation. If the Long family learned that the branch came from the Dragon sect, they would definitely come to deal with them, regardless of whether or not the Long family knew that Longao was dead. That was indeed the case. After discussing, Longying and Duguo Bai decided that the sect had to keep a low profile and develop quickly underground. The current dragon sect branch was no longer what it used to be. The branch of the dragon sect not only had 500 divine dragon corpse slaves, but also thousands of divine path inheritances. Once the divine path inheritances were refined, the dragon sect and the branch would have thousands of divine path warriors, thousands of supreme Tao warriors, thousands of mystical dragon corpse slaves. With such strength, if all of them were in place, the dragon sect would be able to ignore everything, unless it was the tripod of 10 directions or some powerful second-rate forces. In the main hall of the dragon sect branch, Master, everything has been settled. What should we do next? In the Sky Martial continent, there were countless sections. Every day, who knew how many sects were disappearing and how many sects were being built? Our sect's development speed is still a bit slow. If we are not afraid of the Long family knowing about the divine dragon corpse slaves, I believe our sect's development speed will increase by 100 times. Nodding his head, Du Bai said helplessly, before Brother Long left. He repeatedly reminded us that the divine dragon corpse slaves were obtained from the dragon tomb. If the Long family knew about it, not only would our development speed increase, I believe we would immediately disappear from the continent. Fearing the Long family, the divine dragon corpse slaves could not be touched. Brother Dugu, I have already thought about this. If we want to develop quickly, we must use the divine dragon corpse slaves. However, we have to be extremely careful. Long family must not know about this. Dugubai seemed to want to say something, but he held back. According to the sect's current situation, using the divine dragon corpse slaves was the best way. Martial Artists Alliance, inside the Aquamoon Paradise. Ever since receiving the inheritance of the Dark World, Yuin had stayed in the Aquamoon Paradise to cultivate. Furthermore, she had received the full support of the Martial Artists Alliance. She wanted to break through to the Supreme Divine Path, or even the Nirvana realm in the shortest time possible. Inside the Aquamoon Paradise, Yuin sat quietly by herself. Her entire body was enveloped by light. From the beginning to the end, Yuin did not know about Longao's death. Otherwise, would Yuin continue to cultivate in the Aquamoon Paradise? Tong Tiandi and Hades had completely sealed off the news of Longao's death. No matter who it was, if they leaked it to Yuin, they would be killed without mercy. Because of this, no one in the Martial Artists Alliance dared to leak the news to Yuin. There were 2 women in Longao's heart. One was Yuin, and the other was Aoshue. Yuin was cultivating to break through to the Supreme Divine Path. As for Aoshue, she was sitting on a giant lotus. She was pregnant, but her belly was not very big. Under normal circumstances, a 7-month pregnant belly would be very big. However, Aoshue's belly was almost the same as a normal person's. Regarding this point, Aoshue was also helpless. Not to mention her, even her mother and the other members of the Phoenix clan didn't know what was going on. This kind of thing, whether it was humans or the Phoenix clan, seemed to have never happened before. Aoshue opened her eyes and gently touched her belly. She sighed deeply and said to herself, "Little one, be good." At this moment, Aoshue's mother, Lu Ying, walked in. She looked at her daughter and asked with a smile, "Aoshue, how do you feel today?" Aoshue smiled and said, "Mother, what do you think is going on with my belly?" "I don't know, but we've already thought of a way to see what's going on. Aoshue, we think that your problem is probably related to your body constitution. So, don't worry, we'll wait and see." Since things had already developed to this point, what else could they do other than wait? "Aoshue, I've noticed something. Ever since you became pregnant, your cultivation speed seems to have increased a lot. How do you feel?" Aoshue nodded and said, "Yes, mother, I don't know what's going on either. It seems that my cultivation speed has increased because of the child." Aoshue. Lu Ying did not continue speaking. Instead, she said, "Aoshue, you just have to do 2 things. Cultivate and take care of the child. As for you and Longao, I'll take care of it for you. You don't have to worry." Aoshue was a little sad at the mention of Longao. Ever since she came to the Phoenix tribe, there had been no news about Longao. However, she had no choice. Now that she was pregnant, she could not be impulsive. Even if she did not think for herself, she had to think for the child. Chapter 1160. In the center of the Forbidden Abyss, a gigantic circular plate. Within a mysterious space, Longao was brought into the mysterious space by the power of reincarnation. Observing his surroundings, the entire space wasn't too big, just like a room. Bloodline activation disc. Longao had only observed it for less than 3 minutes when the bloodline within his body started rumbling. Rumble, 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 rumble. The bloodline within Longao's body was like boiling water. His face changed. Longao did not know what was going on, but he did not dare to be careless. Immediately, he channeled the power within his body and started suppressing the rumbling bloodline. The bloodline within Longao's body triggered the energy ripples within the mysterious space. The next moment, before Longao could react, endless amounts of blood appeared out of nowhere and enveloped Longao. Longao was completely dumbfounded. At this moment, he could not move at all. Unknowingly, Longao's eyes had already closed slowly. He was completely oblivious to everything that was happening in the outside world. At this moment, the mysterious young man suddenly appeared. He looked exactly like Longao. This was the mysterious young man from the wordless heavenly book. Looking at Longao, who was already enveloped in blood, the mysterious young man's lips curled into a meaningful smile. He muttered to himself, "After 100 reincarnations, I, the reincarnation clan, can finally reappear in the mortal world." In the mysterious space, other than blood, there was only blood. Longao knew nothing about everything that was happening in the mysterious space. 1 year later, the 5 lords of the abyss had already left the forbidden abyss. Even though the man in black did not say it explicitly, the 5 of them had already guessed that Black Wolf had fallen within the forbidden abyss. They were pleasantly surprised. Leaving the forbidden abyss, they returned to the city. The 5 of them did not reveal anything about the Black Wolf and the forbidden abyss. Within the city, everything returned to normal. The 5 lords of the abyss were still the rulers of the massacre abyss. The man in black did not show his face either. After a year of settling down, the rise of Black Wolf had already sunk into the depths of the ocean. A whole year. Longao had been in the mysterious Longao for an entire year. During this time, Longao's eyes were tightly closed. His entire body was covered in blood, and it was unknown whether he was alive or dead. Inside the mysterious space. Yes. With a muffled groan, Longao finally made his first sound after a year. At this time, the surrounding blood began to slowly recede. In the blink of an eye, all the blood had disappeared without a trace. Opening his eyes, Longao looked at his surroundings in a daze. A year? Longao was a little surprised, because he never thought that a whole year would pass in the blink of an eye while he was enveloped in blood. From beginning to end, he had no idea what had happened. Demigod? 9th tier demigod? He sensed that his soul had already transformed. Although it had not truly transformed into a divine soul, it had already transformed by 99%. It was only one step away from completely transforming into a divine soul. Not only his soul, but even the spiritual energy in his body had also transformed into divine power. 99% divine power was only one step away from completely transforming into a divine power of 100%. 99% divine soul, plus 99% divine power. What did that mean? He found it hard to believe, but the truth was right in front of him. Longao found it hard to believe that he had only slept. Although this sleep was a little long, this cultivation speed was a little too fast. One should know that the demigod realm was divided into 9 levels, from lowest to highest. 1st heaven demigod, 2nd heaven demigod, 3rd heaven demigod, 4th heaven demigod, 5th heaven demigod, 6th heaven demigod, 7th heaven demigod, 8th heaven demigod, and 9th heaven demigod. According to Longao's calculations, even if he could break through from the titled Great Emperor realm to the demigod realm in the shortest time possible, he would be thankful if he could reach the 1st heaven demigod realm. If news of him breaking through from the titled Great Emperor realm to the 9th heaven demigod realm spread, no one would believe it. This kind of cultivation speed was really a little inconceivable. Longao was extremely surprised. Although he did not know what the process was like, being able to break through to the 9th heaven demigod realm was something to be excited about. Once he broke through to the 9th heaven demigod realm, He was only one step away from officially breaking through to the Supreme Tao realm. Just one step away. After being surprised for dozens of minutes, Longao did not continue to dwell on the realm. This was because he was still in the reincarnation disk. How to subdue the reincarnation disk and how to leave the reincarnation disk were still the biggest problems. Longao tried to communicate with Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu. After all, he knew nothing about the reincarnation disk, let alone how to leave it. If he did not try, he would not know. If he tried, he would be shocked. Longao had already guessed this result. Once he entered the reincarnation disk, no one would be able to sense it. It seemed like he still had to rely on himself. Longao did not waste any time. He had already wasted a year and could not afford to waste any more time. In the remaining time, Longao began to observe the mysterious space around him. Use the bloodline. Thank you, Senior. Although he did not see the person in person, Longao could tell who the other party was from the voice. It was the mysterious youth from the wordless heaven book space, who looked exactly like him. With the mysterious young man's reminder, Longao's heart had slowly begun to believe the mysterious young man's words. If the mysterious young man was really his 100th reincarnation and also came from the reincarnation clan, then everything would make sense. Longao did not hesitate at all. He immediately released his bloodline and tried to communicate with the reincarnation disk. With the mysterious youth's reminder, Longao's bloodline had just communicated with the mysterious space around him. In the next second, Longao's face was filled with joy. This was because he could clearly feel that he had communicated with the reincarnation disk. The whole process took less than an hour. Longao had already appeared outside the giant disk. However, at this moment, the giant disk had already disappeared. Without a doubt, the giant disk had been subdued by Longao's bloodline and was quietly staying in his dantian. After successfully subduing the reincarnation disk, Longao had already begun to believe that he came from the reincarnation clan. Otherwise, how could his bloodline have subdued the reincarnation disk so easily? According to Long Fu and Xiling, the reincarnation disk was extremely powerful. Even Tian Dao and the clairvoyant might not be able to open the reincarnation disk, let alone subdue it. Longao was almost certain that in order to subdue the reincarnation disk, one had to come from the reincarnation clan. Otherwise, it was almost impossible to open and subdue the reincarnation disk by force. Longao, are you really from the reincarnation clan? Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu's figures appeared at the same time. The three of them were shocked. After all, everything before was just speculation. Chapter 1161. He nodded. The truth was right in front of them, so Longao didn't hide it anymore. Seeing Longao nod, the three of them sighed. Before this, the three of them had only guessed that Longao's bloodline was related to the reincarnation tribe. That was why Long Fu brought Longao into the forbidden abyss to verify their guesses. The three of them knew clearly what it meant if Longao came from the reincarnation tribe. Legend had it that the reincarnation tribe was the most powerful tribe in the world. Long Fu, Xiling, I've successfully absorbed the giant disk. What should I do now? Longao knew his limits. Even if he came from the reincarnation tribe, his strength was still there, and his bloodline was still sealed. It was impossible for him to merge with the reincarnation disk. Master, you can't let anyone know about the disk and the reincarnation tribe. Xiling continued. Longao, we'll discuss how to let you refine the disk as soon as possible. Once you merge with it, I believe you'll be able to activate the reincarnation tribe and obtain their inheritance. He nodded. As for what Long Fu and Xiling had said, Longao knew very well that he couldn't let anyone know about it. Otherwise, trouble would come endlessly. As for Xiling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu, although they didn't say much, Longao knew that Xiling and Long Fu must be disappointed and unwilling. This time, Long Fu and Xiling had discussed bringing him into the forbidden abyss in order to obtain the reincarnation power and recover their original strength. But the result? Not only did Long Fu and Xiling not obtain the reincarnation power, but they were also almost killed by it. Not to mention the two of them, even if it was someone else, they wouldn't be willing to accept it. Long Fu and Xiling didn't say much, and Longao didn't ask either. That was the end of the matter. From the beginning to the end, Longao still felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. However, to him, this was a matter of endless opportunities. Not only did he successfully break through from a titled Great Emperor to a ninth heaven demigod, but he was even taken into the reincarnation disk. Just as Long Fu and Xiling had said, as long as he could merge with the reincarnation disk, not only would he be able to activate the reincarnation clan, but he would also be able to obtain the inheritance of the reincarnation clan. When that time came, he would be able to become the most powerful person in the world. The Tao of the Heavens and the Oracle were like ants in front of the owner of the Wheel of Samsara. It was easy to imagine how terrifying the owner of the Wheel of Samsara was. Longao did not continue to dwell on this issue. He prepared to leave the Forbidden Abyss first. This time, Longao didn't return to the city because he had already decided to leave the Slaughter Abyss and return to the Dragon Sex branch. Leaving the Massacre Abyss did not mean that Longao had chosen to give up on the Massacre Abyss, nor did it mean that he had chosen to give up on revenge. Longao's intention was actually very simple. With his own strength, wanting to contend against the power of the 5 Lords of the Abyss was like an egg hitting a rock. That was exactly the case. Longao had already thought about it. This time when he returned to the Dragon Sect, he would mobilize 200 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves. In addition to dealing with the 5 Lords of the Abyss, the 200 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves would also help him dominate the Massacre Abyss. Just like that, Longao left the Massacre Abyss. From the beginning to the end, the 5 Lords of the Abyss did not know that Longao had not died. In their opinion, Longao had already died in the Forbidden Abyss, and it was impossible for him to continue to return to the city. They had already eliminated the source of trouble. Following the Black Passage, Longao walked for a full hour before he successfully left the Massacre Abyss. During this time, he encountered 2 people who entered the Massacre Abyss, but Longao avoided them both. Dragon Sect. Outside the Dragon Peak, the Sky Sun Sect was a 4th-rate force that started out as bandits. There were 2 leaders in total. The first leader, Sky Sun, was a titled Great Emperor martial artist, while the second leader, Air Mao, was a gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. There were thousands of people in the Sky Sun Sect, and their overall strength was not bad. The Sky Sun Sect had just been established. Of course, they wanted to rise quickly, and the fastest way was to find a sect to test their strength and create a stir. The first target that the Sky Sun Sect found was the branch of the Dragon Sect. "You are the master of the Dragon Sect, Long Ying?" "Yes, I am. May I know why the 2 of you have come to the Dragon Sect?" The master of the Dragon Sect, Long Ying, Deputy Master Dugubai, and the thousands of people led by Longao all looked coldly at the so-called Sky Sun Sect in front of them. The 2 of them could not understand why a small 4th-rate force dared to come and cause trouble. They were simply courting death. On the surface, the Dragon Sect looked like a newly established 4th-rate force. However, there were 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves in the Dragon Sect. What did this mean? Not to mention a 4th-rate force, even a 3rd-rate or 2nd-rate force would not dare to provoke the Dragon Sect. After all, 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves were not to be trifled with. However, at this moment, Long Ying and Dugu Bai were more or less solemn. The reason was simple. Even if the Dragon Sect had 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves, they would not dare to act rashly. If the Long family knew about it, the consequences would be unimaginable. The 2 of them knew that if they were to fight normally, even if they could defeat the Sky Sun Sect, both sides would suffer great losses. Moreover, the Sky Sun Sect's first leader, Sky Sun, and second leader, Air Mao, were a titled Great Emperor martial artist and a gold-grade Great Emperor martial artist. In the entire Dragon Sect, other than the 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves, who else could fight against 2 Great Emperors? Longing had successfully broken through to the yellow-grade Great Emperor martial artist, while Dugu Bai had just broken through to the crimson-grade Great Emperor martial artist. Could they fight them head-on? Ha ha ha, are you afraid? Waving his hand to stop his second brother from speaking, the Heavenly Sun Sect put on a fake smile and said, "Long Ying, my purpose for coming here is very simple. As long as the entire Dragon Sect submits to my Heavenly Sun Sect from now on, I can guarantee that you will live a good life." "With just the 2 of you?" Longing, don't be so shameless. My big brother subduing you is giving you a lot of face. Before Longing could speak, Sky Sun said again, Longing, as the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. Even if the dragon sect does not submit to my Sky Sun sect, you will submit to other sects in the future. Instead of that, why don't you and I work together? When the time comes, we will grow stronger together. I believe that one day, we will become a second-rate force. In Sky Sun and second leader's eyes, the dragon sect was nothing in their eyes. Otherwise, they would not have brought the Sky Sun sect here. Before coming, Sky Sun had already decided that if the dragon sect chose to submit, then everything would be fine. If the dragon sect did not know what was good for them, they would be killed on the spot. A bunch of trash. Seeing that the other party was unwilling to submit, Sky Sun's face became colder and colder. Suddenly, Sky Sun waved his hand, and thousands of people behind him swarmed forward. Their killing intent shook the sky, but bandits were still bandits. Their overall strength was still weak. Chapter 1162. In the blink of an eye, Sky Sun sect and Dragon sect had already begun their battle. With over 2,000 people fighting, one could imagine the scene. If this were a few years ago, Dragon sect would definitely not be a match for Sky Sun sect. Even if Sky Sun sect was just a bunch of bandits, watching the battle coldly, Sky Sun and Mao had not expected Dragon sect to be this strong. If this were to carry on, they would definitely lose. Old 2, go. Piak. Before Mao could strike, 2 slaps rang out. Mao clutched at her cheeks, her face filled with fear as she stumbled back 3 steps. Her face was filled with shock. Who are you? The mysterious man who had appeared out of nowhere was none other than Longao, who had rushed back from the massacre abyss. 7th brother, you're back? Looking at the sudden appearance of Longao, both Longing and Duguo were pleasantly surprised. Both of them were clear that Longao was a bona fide, titled Great Emperor. With that, they could take down Sky Sun sect without having to use their corpse slaves. Waving his hand, both parties who were engaged in an intense battle retreated. In just a few short minutes, both Sky Sun sect and Dragon sect had lost dozens of people each. One could not help but admit that the battle was pretty intense. Who in the world are you? Sky Sun's face was as dark as it could get. For the other party to be able to slap Old 2 without anyone noticing, one could imagine the other party's strength. At the very least, he was a titled Great Emperor. Since when did Dragon sect have a titled Great Emperor? Big bro, who is this trash? Trash? Hearing the other party call him trash, Sky Sun's face turned even darker. But because of the strength that the other party had just displayed, Sky Sun eventually swallowed it down. Longing laughed coldly and roughly recounted what had just happened in a soft voice. After listening, Longao nodded his head and gave both of them a look. You're the master of Sky Sun sect. Sky Sun? Ha ha ha. Lad, I'm Sky Sunday. And who are you? Who am I? Do you have the right to know? F***ck your father. How dare you? Before Mao could even finish her sentence, Longao's body had already disappeared from the spot. Piak piak piak. When the sound of the slap rang out, no one could even see the figure clearly. In the next second, Mao's face was slapped until it looked like a pig's head. She was 3 times fatter than before. In less than a second, Longao's figure had already returned to his original position. The strength displayed by Longao had completely shocked everyone around him, including the master of the Sky Sun sect, Tianyang. All of you, scram. From now on, no matter who you are not allowed to step within 100 miles of the Dragon sect. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. You. This time, the Heavenly Sun sect had already decided that no matter what happened, they had to deal with the Dragon sect. If they failed, how would the Heavenly Sun sect survive in the future? One had to know that the Sky Sun sect had just been established, and they needed to make an example out of them so that the Sky Sun sect could develop quickly. However, before Tianyang could finish his sentence, Longao's body suddenly emitted a terrifying Divine Soul aura. Although it wasn't 100% Divine Soul aura, it was more than enough to suppress the 2 great Sovereign Realm experts. Moreover, The massacre territory that Longao possessed was able to suppress all other territory power. Not to mention, Longao also possessed sword chi and the aura of heaven and earth. Spiritual aura? Sensing the spiritual aura released by the other party, the Heavenly Sun sect and Mao Er's expressions changed drastically. They immediately shouted in surprise, "Ninth Heaven Demigod!" The two of them had never imagined that the young man who had just appeared in front of them would be a Ninth Heaven Demigod. It seemed that the dragon sect wasn't as simple as it seemed. Ninth Heaven Demigod? Hearing the two's fearful cries, Dugu Bai and Long Ying were a little dumbfounded. This was because even the two of them had not expected Longao to break through from the titled Great Emperor realm to the Ninth Heaven Demigod realm in such a short time. However, the two of them were only surprised for a short while before they regained their composure. Whether it was Dugu Bai, Long Ying, or the others in the dragon sect, they were already used to Longao's cultivation speed and talent. Everyone knew very well what a Ninth Heaven Demigod represented. The difference between a titled Great Emperor and a Ninth Heaven Demigod was like heaven and earth. The two of them weren't even on the same level. Heavenly Sun sect and Mao Er knew very well that even if the other party was only a First Heaven Demigod, the two of them wouldn't be a match for him, let alone a Ninth Heaven Demigod. This was the difference between a Great Emperor realm martial artist and a Demigod realm martial artist. Brother, is there some misunderstanding between us? After sensing the spiritual aura released by the other party and ascertaining the other party's strength, the two of them had a 180-degree change in attitude. They were as respectful as they could be. "You're my brother?" Longao felt like laughing out loud. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen such shameless people. The shamelessness of the Sky Sun Sect's people was almost to the extreme. They could change their attitudes so quickly. It was like a sudden change in the wind and clouds. "Heavenly Sun, I gave you a chance just now to get lost, but you didn't. Now, even if you want to get lost, it's impossible." Hearing this, Heavenly Sun's expression changed abruptly. He wasn't a fool. Chapter 1163. Tianyang's body was trembling out of fear. The strength displayed by the other party was too strong. A Ninth Heaven Demigod was a high and mighty existence in their eyes. At this moment, the two of them were extremely depressed. If they had known that the dragon sect had a Ninth Heaven Demigod, they wouldn't have come looking for trouble even if they were beaten to death. They were simply courting death. Now that things had come to this point, neither Tianyang nor Mao Er continued to resist. The two of them were smart people. With the other party's strength, killing them would be a piece of cake. Even if they resisted, it would be futile. "Seventh brother, big brother, leave this to me." They nodded. Although Long Ying was the master of the dragon sect, everyone knew that the real boss of the dragon sect was Longao. "Brother, if you dare to call me brother again, I'll cut off your tongue." Mao Er was shocked when she heard this. She endured the pain on her face and didn't dare to say another word. "Who are you?" "Longao." Tianyang's face changed when he heard the two words Longao. It was as if he had heard of Longao before. Looking at the other party's expression, Longao was a little surprised. He asked, "You know me?" "Longao, didn't you die in the Long family?" Tianyang was almost certain that the Longao in front of him was the Longao of the Long family. Because of this, Tianyang knew that he had provoked someone he shouldn't have. A person who dared to go against a superpower. It was obvious what kind of person the other party was. It seemed that his reputation was really big. "Longao, since you're not dead and have established the dragon sect, you'll definitely die if the Long family finds out. Let me go, and I won't leak this matter." If the other party didn't know about him, Longao might not have wanted to kill him. However, just as Tianyang had said, once the Long family found out that he was still alive and had established another dragon sect, the Long family would definitely not let him off. Whether it was for himself or for the entire dragon sect, Longao would not let this matter leak out. At the very least, not now. "Longao." He waved his hand. Impatience was written all over Longao's face. Even before he arrived, his terrifying aura was already pressing down fiercely. Longao's cultivation had successfully broken through to the Ninth Heaven half-god realm. Against two puny great emperors, Longao didn't even have to move. Just his sword chi alone was enough to kill the two of them. Under the suppression of his aura, the two of them were unable to move at all. Sword chi crisscrossed, instantly killing the two. In the blink of an eye, the two had already fallen. Seventh brother, where are the remaining people from the Sky Sun sect? Looking at the thousands of people in front of him, Longao's face grew colder and colder, and the killing intent on his body grew stronger. Could it be that seventh brother wanted to slaughter the entire Sky Sun sect? Feeling the powerful killing intent from Longao, Dugubai and Long Ying had already guessed what Longao wanted to do. Brother Long, Brother Duga brother. If you cut the grass without removing the roots, it will grow again. The fact that I'm still alive must not be leaked out. Long family must not know about it. Otherwise, we will all be in trouble. Dugubai seemed to want to say something, but he was stopped by Long Ying. Long Ying shook his head. His meaning was clear. Dugubai sighed deeply. He didn't continue speaking, and Dugubai and Long Ying took 3 steps back. My lord, please let us go. My lord, we're willing to join the dragon sect. The first and second heads were already dead. The remaining people naturally weren't willing to die. Whether they left or joined the dragon sect, as long as they could survive, they were willing to be tortoises. This was what they were. Longao didn't have the slightest bit of mercy, because being merciful to the enemy was the greatest cruelty to oneself. Not to mention, his identity had already been exposed. Once this matter was leaked out, not only the Long family, but many people would come looking for trouble with him. The dragon sect had just gotten better. If it was exposed now, the consequences would be unimaginable. That was the case. Longao's face turned cold. His killing intent condensed into a substance, and the god-slaying sword appeared in his right hand. His cultivation had broken through to the demigod level 9, and his understanding of the sword Tao had reached another level. With a casual swing of his sword, 100 feet long sword chi shot out like a shooting star. It was too fast. Before Dugubai and the others could react, the sword chi had already swallowed up thousands of people. That's right. A single sword swallowed up thousands of people. A single sword to kill thousands of people. Even a demigod level 9 could do that? The sword chi disappeared, and so did the thousands of people. Everyone in the dragon sect, including the Master Long Ying and the Vice Master Dugubai, were dumbfounded. They looked coldly at the scene that had just happened. What had just happened? Was it real? Seventh brother, your strength. How could Longao not know the meaning of his big brother's question? He smiled and said, let's clean up first. We'll talk about it when we get back. Nodding, Long Ying handed over the matter. Then, Longao and Dugubai returned to the dragon sect's main hall. Inside the main hall, seventh brother, why did you suddenly come back? Longao didn't tell Long Ying about the massacre abyss. It wasn't that he didn't trust Long Ying and Dugubai. It was just that there were some things that wouldn't benefit them from knowing. What should be hidden had to be hidden. Big brother, I came back after finishing some things. I'll leave later, and I'll take 200 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves with me. Seventh brother, you have to be careful. Long family can't know about this. Longao was also clear about his big brother's worries. Big brother, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. After thinking about it, Longao didn't want to continue talking about this issue. Instead, he said, Big brother Dugu, this time, the Sky Sun sect came looking for trouble. I believe that such things will continue to happen in the future. If we only rely on the Divine Dragon Corpse slaves, our dragon sect's development will be greatly limited. Longao thought about many things when the Sky Sun sect suddenly came looking for trouble. Although the dragon sect had 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves, they could only look at them and not use them. After all, the Long family couldn't know about the 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves. This way, even if it was just a fourth-rate force, they could casually come looking for trouble with the dragon sect. He could rush back once, twice, or even 3 or 4 times. But could he rush back every time? It was always better to be safe than sorry. If he didn't rush back in time, there would only be 2 outcomes for the dragon sect. First, the dragon sect would use the power of the Divine Dragon Corpse slaves and expose the 500 Divine Dragon Corpse slaves. If the Long family knew about it, the dragon sect would be able to reach its peak. Second, Longao would suffer heavy losses and protect the secret of the 500 divine dragon corpse slaves. Chapter 1164. Longao didn't want to see either of the two outcomes. Because of this, Longao knew that he had to settle this matter before he left. Otherwise, the dragon sect would face problems sooner or later. Following that, Longao roughly recounted his thoughts in full detail. After listening, Longying and Dugu Bai both nodded. Knowing was one thing, but what should they do? The two of them had no idea. Seventh brother, this is the dragon sect's problem. If we don't want to use the divine dragon corpse slaves, there's only one way, and that is to have a super expert to guard the sect. Longing nodded. Longao had also thought of the method his big brother mentioned. 500 divine dragon corpse slaves could only be used when the dragon sect grew stronger in the future. Otherwise, 500 divine dragon corpse slaves would be nothing more than decorations. Finding a super expert to guard the sect sounded simple, but it was extremely difficult to do. Without saying anything else, Longao got up and left. Dugu Bai and Longing looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. Master, about this, Brother Dugu. I know what you mean. Master, if that's the case, then I'll get straight to the point. Dugu Bai's face was filled with worry. He sighed and said, I believe Master has already sensed Brother Long's killing intent. I'm not against eliminating the root of the problem, but I'm afraid that Brother Long will become a killing tool if this continues. Dugu Bai didn't continue after saying this, but the meaning in his words was clear. Longing also sighed deeply. Just like what Dugu Bai had said earlier, he had also felt the killing intent from his seventh brother. If this continued, he would indeed be able to reach the peak of his strength. Longing naturally didn't want anything to happen to seventh brother, especially not to become a killing tool. Brother Dugu, do you have a way? Master, Brother Long's killing intent is already very strong. There's only one way now, and that is to let Brother Long cultivate. But Brother Long will definitely not believe our words, so we can only ask Grandfather to come. The grandfather that Dugu Bai spoke of was Longao and Longying's grandfather, the so-called Longhaoshi. Longhaoshi sighed deeply again. Thinking that seventh brother might have gone astray, Longying had a deep worry. He left the lobby. Longao stood alone at the peak of the barren mountain as the cold wind blew past. Dusk slowly passed, and night quietly fell. Longao did not rush over immediately. He stood there quietly, thinking about how he could help the dragon sect. As long as the matter of the dragon sect was not resolved, then he would not be able to leave the dragon sect. In this case, the matter of the massacre abyss must continue to be delayed. Brother Long, seeing Bai Ling suddenly appear beside him, Longao smiled. Longao had always been unwilling to face his feelings for Bai Ling. He had already thought about this matter. He would talk about the matter between himself and Bai Ling in the future. After all, now is not the time. Longao, why don't you focus on increasing Longying's and Dugu Bai's strength instead of looking for experts to guard the dragon sect? Hearing Xiling's words, Longao's heart skipped a beat. Xiling, I believe you have sensed Brother Dugu and my brother's strength. It's not easy to increase their strength in a short period of time. Longao knew the consequences of pulling up seedlings to help them grow. The path of cultivation itself was against the heavens. Once one forcefully increased their strength, although there was no harm in a short period of time, the consequences would be unimaginable in the long run. In the best-case scenario, one's cultivation would be crippled, and in the worst-case scenario, one would die. It was precisely because of this. Unless it was absolutely necessary, no one would be willing to forcefully increase their strength. Longao was also unwilling to forcefully increase Dugu Bai and Longying's strength. After all, they were his family. He would rather expose the 500 divine dragon corpse slaves than let anything happen to them. As if he could guess Longao's thoughts, Xiling smiled and said, Longao, for my sister's sake, I'll help you this time. He was overjoyed. Longao was still wondering why Xiling would say such a thing out of the blue. It turned out that he had a way to help him. Xiling, what's the way? Until now, Longao still didn't know how strong Xiling was. Whether it was Xiling or Bai Ling, they were like mysteries. Since the two didn't say anything, he didn't ask either. I've already sensed their body constitution. Within a month, I'm confident that I can raise both of them to the titled Great Emperor realm. As for whether they can break through to the demigod realm, it'll depend on their luck. Longao didn't say anything. This was because it was a little unrealistic to forcefully raise the cultivation of Big Brother Dugu and Big Brother Dugu to the titled Great Emperor realm in just 1 month. However, Longao knew that Xiling didn't have to lie to him. Xiling's method was actually very simple. According to Xiling's method, it was to borrow the two's special body constitution and forcefully inject energy into them. If it was an ordinary person, their body would explode and they would die. However, Dugu Bai and Long Ying's situation was completely different. Longao, Xiling, Bai Ling, and even Long Fu. Under the protection of the four of them, Dugu Bai and Long Ying's crazy absorption of energy and the backlash of increasing their strength was forcefully refined. Forcefully increasing their strength consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Because of this, Longao was very grateful to Xiling and Bai Ling. After all, the two of them didn't have the obligation to help him. 1 month later, with the help of the four of them, Dugu Bai and Long Ying's cultivation had successfully broken through to the titled Great Emperor realm. Even Dugu Bai and Long Ying were in disbelief at such a cultivation speed. The two of them knew what it meant to break through to the titled Great Emperor realm. This way, even if the dragon sect didn't use the 500 divine dragon corpse slaves in the future, they believed that the fourth-rated forces wouldn't dare to cause trouble for them. Longao was very surprised that Dugu Bai and Long Ying's cultivation had successfully broken through to the titled Great Emperor realm. However, he was still very worried. The reason was simple. Even if the two of them had successfully broken through to the titled Great Emperor realm and could withstand the attack of a fourth-rated force, what if the opponent was a third-rated force or even a second-rated force? With their strength, how could they resist without using the 500 divine dragon corpse slaves? It was still the same sentence. If this matter wasn't resolved, Longao wouldn't be able to leave in peace. If anything happened to the dragon sect, he wouldn't forgive himself. What should they do? Xiling's method could only help the two of them break through to the titled Great Emperor realm. If they wanted to continue breaking through, they would have to rely on the two of them. If they wanted to forcefully break through, their help alone wouldn't be of any use. Once they forcefully helped, the two of them would suffer a backlash. Not to mention Xiling and Long Fu, even God wouldn't be able to help. Chapter 1165. What should he do if he couldn't force it? Thinking about it, Longao couldn't think of a better idea. Sky Martial Continent. 100 miles away from Dragon Peak, in an abandoned village. There were only 100 or so families in the village. Yang Jian and Wang Hao had slaughtered the entire village. With their strength, slaughtering the entire village was a matter of minutes. If this matter were to spread, they would definitely be condemned by everyone. Yang Jian and Wang Hao were both reincarnators. After 2 years of awakening, the two of them had successfully broken through to the demigod realm. They couldn't wait any longer. That year in the outer sea, the two of them had formed a life and death grudge with Longao. After 2 whole years, Yang Jian and Wang Hao finally couldn't wait any longer and left the outer sea for Sky Martial Continent. Dragon Peak. At the peak of the mountain, Longao looked at the two people who had suddenly appeared in front of him. He couldn't understand why the two of them would appear at this time. It was really his negligence. Regarding the identity of the two people, others might not know, but how could Longao not know? Whether it was Yang Jian or Wang Hao, they were both true reincarnators. According to the strict requirements of reincarnators, to enter the path of reincarnation, one had to be a soul. In other words, only after breaking through to the demigod realm and falling would one have a chance to enter reincarnation and become a reincarnation warrior. Demigod realm of the 9th heaven. Longao was very surprised. Reincarnation warriors were indeed reincarnation warriors. They only needed to borrow the cultivation of their previous life to increase their cultivation speed. In a short 2 years, the two of them had already broken through to the demigod realm of the 9th heaven. If it was anyone else, Wanting to break through to the demigod realm of the ninth heaven in a short 2 years was not an easy task. Longao, we haven't seen each other in 2 years. How have you been? You two haven't died yet. I'm really surprised. Die? Haha, ha ha ha. Hearing the other party's words, Yang Jin and Wang Hao suddenly laughed crazily. That year in the outer sea, the two of them had reached a point where it was either you die or I die. The two of them couldn't wait to tear Longao into pieces. If they had been in the outer seas all those years ago, the two of them might have feared Longao. But now, both of them had successfully broken through to the ninth heaven of the demigod realm. In their eyes, they did not believe that Longao could break through to the demigod realm in just 2 years. Even becoming a great emperor would be a problem. Gentlemen, I'm really curious. How did you find me? Longao was very surprised by this. In the vast Tianwu continent, trying to find a single person was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Furthermore, he had already concealed himself well. Long family members might not be able to discover him, let alone the two of them. How did Yang Jian and Wang Hao do it? We are Samsara realm warriors. We have our ways. Since the two of them were unwilling to talk about it, Longao did not continue to ask. However, Longao was very clear that if he did not get rid of the two of them, they would always be a scourge. Let alone himself, just his family. If the two of them hid in the dark and ambushed him, who in his family would be able to resist ninth heaven demigod realm warriors? Moreover, there were two of them. Longao, are you afraid? With just the two of you? Yang Jian and Wang Hao's faces were filled with disdain and contempt. In their eyes, the youth in front of them was just a sage emperor. He wasn't even a great emperor yet. Such a person, as long as they moved their fingers, they could easily deal with him. Wang Hao and Yang Jian looked at each other. Brother Wang, are you going to do it, or should I? Wang Hao smiled and made an inviting gesture, saying, Brother Yang, please. Yang Jian did not hold back. He nodded and coldly looked at Longao. Longao, originally, we wanted to break through to the divine Tao before coming to find you. But do you know why we came to find you so quickly? Longao didn't say anything. He just coldly looked at the two of them. Longao, back then in the outer sea, we almost died to your hands. I have to admit that you're quite a character. Nonsense. Without the slightest anger, Yang Jian continued, Longao, I'm sure you're well aware of the enmity between us. However, the two of us are magnanimous and can let you go. Were the two of them really so kind? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he definitely did not believe it. The Primal Chaos Tablet. As long as you hand it over, we'll let you go. From now on, we won't interfere with each other. How about it? As expected, the temptation of the Primal Chaos Tablet was something that even the heavenly Daos wouldn't be able to resist, let alone the two of them. Longao wasn't the slightest bit surprised. He had already guessed that Yang Jian and Wang Hao had only broken through to the ninth heaven stage. They hadn't even broken through to the divine Tao before rushing into the martial heaven continent to find him. Could it be that they really wanted to kill him? If it was just to kill him, there was no need for them to do this. After all, the martial heaven continent was filled with experts, and divine Tao experts were as numerous as the hairs on an ox. Any random divine Tao expert could easily kill the two of them. It was precisely because of the temptation of the Primal Chaos Tablet that the two of them were prepared to take the risk and leave the outer sea to find him. Strictly speaking, the two of them wanted to obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet as quickly as possible. The two people's thoughts were actually very simple. Longao's strength was not very strong. If an accident happened and he was killed, wouldn't the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet also change owners? At that time, finding the Primal Chaos Tablet would be even more difficult. In order to obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet, Yang Jian and Wang Hao had come. Seeing that Longao wasn't dead, the two of them sighed in relief. As for how they had found Longao, the reason was very simple. As reincarnation realm experts, the two of them had their own methods. As ninth heaven stage demigods, killing Longao was more than enough for them to snatch the Primal Chaos Tablet. Longao, compared to your life, everything else is like floating clouds. I believe that a wise man submits to circumstances. There's no need to give up your life for the Primal Chaos Tablet. Before obtaining the Primal Chaos Tablet, the two of them didn't dare to casually kill Longao. In their eyes, let alone one Longao, even 10,000 Longaos couldn't compare to the Primal Chaos Tablet. In order to ensure that nothing went wrong, the two of them decided to first obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet. As for Longao, from start to finish, the two of them had no intention of letting him go. This time, Longao had to die. Longao could already guess what the two of them were thinking. Let alone the two of them, even if it were him, he would also cut the weeds and pull out the roots. You want the Primal Chaos Tablet? Sure, but I can only give it to one of you. Author's note. Chapter 9 sent here. Chapter 1166. One person? What was the meaning of this? He coldly snorted in his heart. Yangjian, Wang Hao, my meaning is very simple. My Primal Chaos Tablet can only be given to one of you. Now, let's decide a winner. Otherwise, I would rather destroy the Primal Chaos Tablet. You want to destroy the Primal Chaos Tablet with just you? Yangjian and Wang Hao clearly didn't believe him. After all, the Primal Chaos Tablet was the most powerful divine tool in the world. Not to mention Longao. Even if a Nirvana Realm martial artist personally came, they wouldn't be able to destroy the Primal Chaos Tablet. You don't believe me? Seeing that Yangjian and Wang Hao didn't speak, Longao smiled and said, even if I can't destroy the Primal Chaos Tablet, you can forget about obtaining it. Hearing this, the two's faces became more and more gloomy. The two were very clear that if the other party hid the Primal Chaos Tablet, it would be impossible for them to find it. Killing each other. The two weren't idiots. Of course, they understood Longao's meaning. He wanted to use the Primal Chaos Tablet to make the two of them kill each other. Once both sides were injured, he could sit back and reap the benefits. Fight each other? The two looked at each other. In order to obtain the Primal Chaos Tablet, not to mention killing each other, they would even kill their own father. In the next moment, just as the two were about to fight, the two suddenly turned around and simultaneously shot towards Longao. He wasn't surprised at all because Longao had already guessed that before the two of them obtained the Primal Chaos Tablet, they definitely wouldn't kill each other. After all, the two of them were 100% aware that he would reap the benefits. They didn't dodge at all. If it was before entering the massacre abyss, Longao definitely wouldn't fight them head-on. After all, the difference between a great Emperor Realm martial artist and a Demigod Realm martial artist was huge. The two of them weren't on the same level. But now, Longao's situation was completely different. His cultivation had smoothly broken through from the titled Great Emperor Realm to the 9th Heaven Demigod Realm. Even if it was 1 against 2, he still wouldn't be afraid. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were already engaged in a fierce battle. In an instant, they had exchanged 10 moves and then separated again. At this moment, Yangjian and Wang Hao's faces were gloomy to the extreme, and they were shocked to the extreme as well. Never had they imagined that Chen Shi's cultivation had actually broken through to the 9th heavenly layer as well. Wasn't such a speed of cultivation a little too terrifying? At this rate of cultivation, even if the other party was not a reincarnator, he believed that the other party's cultivation speed would far surpass the two of them. The more powerful Longao's talent was, the more terrifying his cultivation speed was. The two of them were even more determined that no matter what happened, they had to get rid of this person and eliminate all future troubles. Kill. Similarly, the two of them did not place Longao in their eyes. So what if the other party was a 9th Heaven Demigod martial artist? It was 2 against 1. Yangjian and Wang Hao didn't believe that they couldn't kill Longao with their combined strength. If they couldn't do it, they wouldn't be worthy of being called reincarnators. Their divine soul auras collided. Longao also sneered. Using his fingers as a sword, the terrifying sword chi merged with the aura of heaven and earth. Just the aura and sword momentum alone had already suppressed the two of them. Under normal circumstances, as reincarnators who had broken through to the demigod realm, the two of them had merged the aura of their two lives. Among martial artists of the same level, it seemed that no one could suppress them. What others couldn't do didn't mean that Longao couldn't do it. Just sensing the terrifying aura that erupted from Longao, Yang Jian and Wang Hao exclaimed as if they had seen it before, "The aura of heaven and earth. You're a nirvana martial artist." Just as they said this, the two of them swallowed back their words. The two of them knew very well that the other party was not a nirvana martial artist at all. Although they didn't know why the other party could release the aura of heaven and earth, the two of them were sure that they couldn't suppress the other party in terms of aura. That was exactly the case. The two of them no longer clashed with their auras, but chose to fight in close quarters. 2 against 1, the two of them were still confident that they could kill Longao directly. Longao knew clearly what the two of them were thinking. Fight in close quarters. Who's afraid of who? Longao had the sacred body of desolation, and he punched out with both fists. You punch, and I punch. The shadows of the fists flashed, and the three of them couldn't be seen clearly. Longao had the help of Long Chong and Long Ming. The Divine Dragon Arm and the Dark Tiger Arm were used together. Although Longao's fist force was not as strong as the sword chi, it was more than enough to contend with the two of them. At this moment, Yang Jian and Wang Hao were extremely depressed. They couldn't suppress the other party's aura. Even the fist force was far stronger than the two of them. If not for the fact that they were reincarnators, they believed that they would have been defeated long ago. Longao, a demon-like existence. Things had come to this point, and the two of them were very clear that either one of them would die. Therefore, Longao had to die. The next moment, Longao didn't continue to punch. Instead, he used the sword chi and used his fingers instead of the god-slaying sword. Longao's swordsmanship had reached a very high level, and he had integrated the power of the 5 elements. The sword chi was rampant, and the two of them were gradually losing. Innate divine ability, Dragon Roar. Today's innate divine ability was different. In addition to the second bloodline awakening, Longao had integrated the aura of heaven and earth and the firmament devouring skill. In this way, the power of the innate divine ability had tripled. Yang Jian and Wang Hao were suddenly stunned. The flow of space around them changed, and even their bodies were forcibly locked. Not only that, the two of them were horrified to find that their demigod souls were forcibly devoured. If this continued, they believed that they would be obliterated by the other party without having to continue fighting. Until now, Yang Jian and Wang Hao had never thought that Longao's strength would be so powerful. It seemed that they had underestimated the other party. Because of this, the two of them gradually began to retreat and prepared to leave this place. As for Longao's matter, they would take their time to think about it in the future. In the end, the two of them were truly afraid. They slowly retreated, but their bodies had been locked. The two of them didn't dare to have the slightest bit of carelessness. They joined hands and forcibly broke the lock. Because of Longao's carelessness, the two of them turned and left after breaking the seal. In a short while, they had disappeared without a trace. Since things had come to this point, Longao certainly wouldn't let it go, because he was very clear that once the two of them escaped, there would be endless trouble in the future. Both of them were not ordinary warriors. They were reincarnation realm warriors. Although they were only 9th heaven demigod warriors, their cultivation speed was much faster than ordinary warriors. Once they broke through to the realm of divine Tao and launched a sneak attack, the consequences would be unimaginable. Wanna leave? Longao used the spatial teleportation and his body suddenly disappeared. In terms of speed, Longao had full confidence that the two of them couldn't escape. Chapter 1167. At this moment, Yang Jian and Wang Hao were depressed to the extreme. The two of them traveled thousands of miles from the outer sea to the Tianwu continent. Other than killing Longao, their most important goal was to obtain the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet. But the result? Until now, the two of them were still in a daze. They did not know why Longao was so strong. It was somewhat unexpected. He's coming. Sensing the sword chi behind them, the two of them were shocked. After the battle, the two of them already knew that even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for their opponent. If they continued to fight, the two of them would definitely die. There was only one way. The two of them were very clear that as rebirth realm martial artists, as long as they had enough time, once they awakened, they would become supreme Dao martial artists. As long as they were one step ahead of Longao, it would be easy to kill Longao when the time came. No matter what, the demigod realm and the supreme Dao realm were two extremes, not to mention that it was 2 against 1. Longao, without giving the two of them any chance to speak, the god-slaying sword in Longao's hand fiercely swung out. Before the person arrived, the sword chi had already shot out. The two of them were shocked. They had already personally felt the terror of the opponent's sword chi. They did not dare to meet force with force. As they dodged, it was as if they were drinking milk and drinking milk. They wished they could grow 2 more legs. Longao had already made up his mind to kill the two of them. He chased with all his might. Martial Artists Alliance. Longao chased them all the way to the Martial Artists Alliance. It was also because of this that he was very curious. He did not know why the two of them chose the Martial Artists Alliance. Since things had already come to this, even if there was a risk of his identity being exposed, Longao had to kill the two of them. After all, the threat of 2 Rebirth Realm martial artists was too great. He would not wait until the two of them had broken through to the Supreme Dao realm to find trouble with him, no matter if it was for himself or for his family. My lord, please save us. The 8 deputy leaders of the Martial Artists Alliance appeared at the same time. Shangguaniye seemed to be a little surprised, because he did not expect Yang Jian and Wang Hao to have successfully reincarnated. What happened? As soon as Shangguaniye finished speaking, Longao appeared. Longao looked coldly at the 8 Vice Alliance Masters in front of him, as well as Yang Jian and Wang Hao, who were standing beside Shangguaniye. He already knew what had happened, and his heart was heavy. Black Wolf. Almost everyone knew that the Black Wolf was Longao, but everyone knew that Longao had entered the Long family's forbidden area and died. If that was the case, why would he appear here? What happened? Yang Jian and Wang Hao did not dare to hide anything as they recounted everything that had happened. As for the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet, they did not mention a single word. The two of them were not fools. They knew that once the Vice Alliance Master found out about the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet, it would be nearly impossible for them to obtain it. Longao, so you didn't die. Longao was a disciple of the Long family, but everyone knew that the Long family did not see eye to eye with Longao. Otherwise, Longao would not have been punished and entered the forbidden area, his life and death unknown. Shangguaniye, this is between me and them. It's best if you don't interfere. Longao, who do you think you are? How dare you speak to the Lord like that? After entering the Martial Arts Alliance, Yang Jian and Wang Hao heaved a sigh of relief. There were 8 Vice Alliance leaders, which meant that 8 Nirvana Realm martial artists were here. Would a mere Longao dare to be presumptuous? Longao, leave first. We will deal with this later. Seeing that Longao was not dead, Tang Hao was pleasantly surprised, but he did not show it. Because the Martial Artists Alliance had already decided to capture Longao, but because Longao had fallen in the Long family's forbidden area, this matter was left unsettled. How could Longao not understand Tang Hao's intentions? He clearly knew that if he did not leave, a battle would be unavoidable, but Longao still wanted to stay. The reason was simple. Yang Jian and Wang Hao already knew about his Primal Chaos Stone Tablet. Since his identity had already been exposed, then the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet could not be leaked. Otherwise, not to mention others, even the Tao of Heaven would interfere. Aside from the Primal Chaos Stone Tablet, Yang Jian and Wang Hao were both Rebirth Realm martial artists. There was no need to guess that the two of them would definitely become Divine Realm martial artists in the future. This was too big of a threat to him and his family. Tang Hao, what do you mean? Shangguaniye, Longao's matter is not up to us to interfere. You should know what the Long family and the Dragon Clan mean. In the past, if they did not know Longao's true identity, then so be it. Now that they knew, if they forcefully dealt with Longao, wouldn't it be provoking the Long family? No one knew what was going on with Longao and the Long family. How could Shangguaniye not understand Tang Hao's intentions? However, Longao had taken the initiative to come to them. If they wasted this opportunity, it would not be so easy to hunt down Longao in the future. Actually, in Shangguaniye's heart, she wanted to kill Longao with her own hands. It was also a way to establish her authority. Tang Hao, Before the Alliance Master left, he left all matters of the Alliance to me, not you. As he spoke, Tang Hao took out a token. It was the Alliance Master token. Seeing the Alliance Master token was like seeing the Alliance Master. When he saw the Alliance Master token, even if Tang Hao's heart was filled with anger, he could only forcefully suppress it. After all, he could not provoke the Alliance Master and disregard the Alliance Master token for Longao. Seeing that Tang Hao did not speak, Shang Guanyi sneered and said coldly, "Longao, since you are here, then stay. As for your life and death, wait for the Alliance Master to return and decide it himself." He cursed in his heart. Would Shang Guanyi wait for Tong Tiandi to return? Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he would never believe it. Longao looked coldly at the 10 people in front of him. With a fearless expression, he took out a black token from his chest. It was almost identical to the black token in Shang Guanyi's hand. It was the Alliance Master token. Seeing that Longao suddenly took out the Alliance Master token, the expressions of the 8 Vice Alliance Masters changed. Shang Guanyi immediately said angrily, "Longao, how dare you steal the Alliance Master token? If I don't kill you today, the Martial Artists Alliance will lose face." Shang Guanyi, I am very skeptical that a person like you can become the Vice Alliance Master of the Martial Artists Alliance. The Alliance Master token in my hand was personally given to me by the Alliance Master. Seeing the Alliance Master token is like seeing the Alliance Master. I order you to hand over Wang Hao and Yang Jian now. Tang Hao and the other Vice Alliance Masters were a little confused by the 2 Alliance Master tokens. In fact, Shang Guanyi and the other Vice Alliance Masters knew very well that with Longao's strength, he would not be able to take the Alliance Master token away from the Alliance Master. Could it be that the Alliance Master really gave it to him? They found it hard to believe. Longao, the origin of your Alliance Master token is unknown. You are trespassing into the Alliance. Kill without mercy. Author's note: Chapter 11 is here. If you have free monthly and recommendation tickets, please vote for Longao. After all, his ranking is too bad. Chapter 1168. Kill without mercy. Regardless of whether the Alliance Leader token in Longao's hand was real or not, Tong Tiandi had personally instructed before he left the Alliance that Shang Haiya would be in charge of all matters during his absence. Tang Hao's face was extremely gloomy, but he suppressed his anger in the end. Brother Shangguan, why don't we take him down first and wait for the Alliance Leader to come back and make a decision? The other 6 deputy Alliance leaders were wary of the Long family. Was it worth it to offend the Long family for the sake of Longao? Shang Haiya's face turned cold. Shang Haiya raised the Alliance Leader token in his hand and said coldly, "Where is the enforcers?" As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of demigods appeared. In Shang Haiya's opinion, Longao was already trapped and would not dare to resist. Take him down. If he dares to resist, kill without mercy. Shang Haiya could not wait for Longao to resist. That way, he would have sufficient reason to kill him. Dozens of people rushed toward Longao in a frenzy. In everyone's eyes, Longao was only a great emperor martial artist. After all, it was impossible for him to break through to the 9th heaven demigod realm in a short span of a year. Cold eyes looked forward to it. Longao did not retreat, nor did he leave. He was prepared to meet force with force. No matter what happened today, Yang Jian and Wang Hao had to die. In other words, if the 2 of them did not die, there would be endless trouble for him and his family. The heavenly Tao might even descend. Either you die or I die. Innate divine ability, Dragon's Roar. At this point, Longao did not continue to hide it. After all, everyone already knew his identity. In this way, Longao was prepared to kill Yang Jian and Wang Hao in one fell swoop. Otherwise, once the 8 deputy alliance leaders intervened, it would be even more difficult for him to continue killing Yang Jian and Wang Hao. Innate divine ability. No one was curious about the innate divine ability of the Long family. This was because the Long family was able to become one of the 10 great tripod forces because of the Dragon Clan and a small number of geniuses who possessed powerful innate divine abilities. You could say that Long family disciples with supernatural powers would have an absolute advantage among martial artists of the same level. They could even challenge those of a higher level. Their supernatural powers were their greatest killing moves. Shangguan Yi looked coldly at the scene in front of her. With dozens of people working together, capturing Longao would be a piece of cake. If it was the Longao from before, it would have been very difficult for him to lock onto the bodies of dozens of people with his innate ability. But now, Longao's cultivation base had broken through to the ninth heaven demigod realm, and his strength had increased tremendously. Dozens of people were locked down. With the combined pressure of the heaven and earth, it was impossible for dozens of people to break out of the lock and break out of the heaven and earth's aura instantly. He did not use the god-slaying sword. Longao used his finger as a sword, and a terrifying sword aura flowed. In the next second, countless sword chi were released, and one after another, forming a meteor sword rain. Longao, don't you dare. Shangguan Yi and Tang Hao were shocked when they sensed the aura of the divine soul from Longao and the powerful sword aura. From the beginning to the end, no one had expected Longao to have broken through to the demigod realm and even reached the ninth heaven demigod realm. In just 1 year, he had reached such a height. Such talent and speed of cultivation could only be described with one word: monstrous. Don't you dare? Longao sneered. Since things had come to this, why wouldn't he dare? Ignoring Shangguan Yi's angry roar, Longao's sword chi didn't stop at all. Countless sword chi kept piercing through dozens of people's bodies. In just a few seconds, dozens of people were killed instantly, and their bodies were cut into countless small pieces by the sword chi. He killed dozens of demigod realm martial artists in one strike. What did this mean? Longao, how dare you kill the enforcers of the alliance? Shangguan Yi, cut the crap. If you don't hand over Yang Jian and Wang Hao today, not to mention the enforcers, even you will have to die. Ha ha ha, with just you? Hearing Longao's words, Shangguan Yi laughed maniacally. Her laughter was full of contempt and mockery, as if she had heard the funniest thing in the world. All of a sudden, Shangguan Yi's body suddenly disappeared. As a Nirvana realm martial artist, Shangguan Yi was very fast. Before Longao could react, she was already in front of him. He was shocked. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid of Shangguan Yi. After all, a Nirvana realm martial artist was not to be trifled with. She struck with her palm, and it flashed past like lightning. Tang Hao and the others did not doubt that with Shangguan Yi's strength, Longao would definitely die if she struck him with her palm, unless Longao was not human or had hidden his strength. But what was the result? The palm did not land on Longao's body, but on the body of the five elements slave. Without any suspense, this palm was forcibly blocked by the five elements slave. Although the five elements family slave did not have any attacking ability, his defense was extremely strong. Even the divine dragon could not compare with him. Shangguan Yi took 10 steps back and looked at the old man in front of her in a daze. The fact that the old man could resist her attack showed that he was powerful. He was a Nirvana realm martial artist. No wonder Longao was fearless and dared to come to the alliance alone to cause trouble and threaten to kill people. It turned out that he was already prepared. Everyone in the surroundings exclaimed because the dragon roars corresponded to giant dragons. Didn't that mean that there were hundreds of giant dragons? Everyone knew very well what a divine dragon meant. Before anyone could react, a dense group of divine dragons suddenly appeared. Each divine dragon was covered in dark clouds. At a glance, there were hundreds of divine dragons. Longao brought the entire dragon tribe here. The 8 Vice Alliance leaders were scared out of their wits. They knew very well what a few hundred mystical dragons meant. Kill them. Things had already reached this stage. Longao could no longer care about anything else. No matter what happened, he had to kill Yang Jian and Wang Hao to get rid of all future troubles. More than 200 divine dragon corpse slaves attacked the Alliance disciples in a frenzy. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. They were not even on the same level. In less than a few minutes, half of the hundreds of Alliance disciples were dead. If this situation continued, The remaining 50 people would be killed in less than 10 minutes. Even the Martial Artists Alliance could not afford to lose hundreds of demigod and divine Dao martial artists. Seeing more than 50 people dead, the 8 deputy leaders were completely anxious. They could no longer care about Wang Hao and Yang Jian. 6 of the 8 deputy leaders quickly shot towards the 200 Divine Dragon Corps slaves. Until now, the 8 Dream Ancestors still did not know what was going on with the sudden appearance of Divine Dragons. The opportunity was here. It was a rare opportunity. Longao did not let go of it. With the help of spatial teleportation, he disappeared from the spot. In the next second, Longao appeared beside the 2. 6 of the 8 deputy leaders were dealing with the Divine Dragon Corps slaves. The remaining 2 deputy leaders could not take care of all the positions at the same time. Longao, looking at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of them, both Yang Jian and Wang Hao were shocked and shouted. At this moment, the 2 of them were completely terrified. They thought that Longao would not dare to come to the Martial Artists Alliance even if he was given 10,000 guts. Even if Longao chased after them, with the strength and deterrence of the Martial Artists Alliance, Longao would not dare to attack unless he was out of his mind. But the result? Not only did Longao chase after the Martial Artists Alliance, he even fought against the entire alliance. If they did not see it with their own eyes, they would not believe it even if they were beaten to death. Longao, let's stop here and forget about the grudge between us. What do you think? Afraid that Longao would attack, Wang Hao continued. Longao, if you insist, we will tell them about the Chaos Stone Tablet. Tell them? Longao had already guessed that the 2 of them would do this. Otherwise, he would not take the risk to fight against the entire Martial Artists Alliance. No matter what, the Martial Artists Alliance's status and strength were there. If he provoked them, he believed that there would be endless trouble in the future. However, between the Martial Artists Alliance and the Tao of Heaven, and the entire Tianwu continent, Longao would choose the Martial Artists Alliance without hesitation. Seeing Longao's expression, Yang Jian and Wang Hao seemed to have guessed something. Before the 2 of them could continue to threaten him, Longao had already moved. 1 hit, 1 kill. Longao knew very well that if he let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, it would not be so easy to kill Yang Jian and Wang Hao later. Soul Formation Attack. As the 2 of them screamed in pain, Longao did not give the 2 vice leaders any chance to intervene. Using his fingers as a sword, he used the 36 Thunder Styles and the Emperor Dragon's 9 Fatal Strikes and fiercely shot towards the 2. Longao, you will regret this. Killing 2 people under the eyes of 2 Vice Alliance Masters. If this matter succeeded, where would the dignity of the 8 Vice Alliance Masters go? What face would the Martial Artists Alliance have left? Ignoring everyone's threats, sword chi streaked through the air. Yang Jian and Wang Hao's expression stiffened. Their bodies were instantly cut apart by the sword chi, blood flowing everywhere. After killing the 2 of them, Longao finally relaxed. With Yang Jian and Wang Hao's deaths, there was practically no one left in the Tianwu continent who knew that he possessed the Tianwu continent. This matter would not be leaked. No matter who it was, including the Tao of Heaven, no one would know about this matter. He could rest easy. P.S. Chapter 13, delivered. Go eat first. After listening to him, the anger on Tong Tiandi's face didn't lessen. Longao, this is the Martial Artists Alliance. Even if you have a grudge with the 2 of them, it has to be dealt with by the Alliance. You openly provoked the Alliance. If I don't kill you today, I won't be able to answer to the Alliance. Tong Tiandi's meaning was clear. If he didn't kill Longao, he wouldn't be able to answer to the Alliance. Longao didn't blame Tong Tiandi. After all, no matter who it was, they would have done the same. Alliance Leader, Longao has the Alliance Leader token. Shangguan Es sneered in his heart. However, losing 2 Rebirth Realm warriors made him gnash his teeth in anger. After so many years of planning, he finally succeeded. But in the end, it was all for naught. Shut up. Shangguan Es was shocked. He didn't expect the Alliance Leader to be angry at him. Nothing like this had ever happened before. It seemed like the Alliance Leader was really angry. Not daring to continue speaking, Shangguan Iya and the others stood aside obediently. As for the disciples of the alliance, they surrounded Longao. Since the alliance leader was here, everyone was confident that Longao would definitely die. Longao, let me ask you now. Was the divine dragon you just released arranged by the Long family? Tong Tiandi had to get to the bottom of this matter. No matter what, the nature of these two matters was completely different. If Longao was alone, even if he killed Longao, no one would come looking for trouble. After all, how many people would dare to find trouble with the martial artists' alliance? However, if this matter was related to the Long family, then it would be troublesome. The Long family was not afraid of the martial artists' alliance and had the help of the dragon tribe. If this matter was approved by the Long family, then the situation would be completely different. If it was not resolved properly, the martial artists' alliance and the Long family would definitely go to war in the future. Long family? If Tong Tiandi hadn't said this, Longao wouldn't have thought of this problem. He sneered in his heart and said expressionlessly, "That's right. The 200 divine dragons were lent to me by the Long family. I'm just a small Longao. If it wasn't for the help of the Long family, how could I mobilize 200 divine dragons?" Until now, whether it was Tong Tiandi or Shangguan Iya, none of the 8 deputy leaders knew that the 200 divine dragons were not real divine dragons, but divine dragon corpse slaves. If they knew, they would be scared to death. Longao, what do you mean by this? Tong Tiandi, since things have come to this, I won't hide it from you. Our Long family has long disliked the martial artists' alliance. If it wasn't for Yang Jian and Wang Hao, I wouldn't have acted so recklessly. However, the war between the martial artists' alliance and the Long family is inevitable. I hope you can resist it when the time comes. Hearing Long Ao's words, everyone was shocked. Because just as Long Ao said, if the Long family didn't have this intention, they wouldn't have given Long Ao more than 200 divine dragons so casually. Moreover, 200 divine dragons was not a small number to the dragon tribe. Tong Tiandi's face was extremely gloomy. The 8 deputy leaders' faces were also very ugly. If the Long family really went to war with the Martial Artists Alliance, no matter the result, it would not be good for the Martial Artists Alliance. Long Ao, you can't speak carelessly. Deputy Leader Tang, you and I have been friends for a long time. I won't blame you for this. However, I won't let go of the grudge between me and Shangguan Iya. One day, I'll make sure your head is separated from your body. Just you? Long Ao, is there something wrong with your brain? The Alliance leader is here. Let's not talk about the future. You might not even be able to leave here alive today. Not only Shangguan Iya, but the others also had looks of disdain and ridicule. If the Alliance leader returned in time, would Long Ao be able to leave here alive? Everyone knew about the Alliance leader's strength. He was a super figure in the top 10 of the Heaven leaderboard. Wasn't a little Long Ao a little too arrogant? Long Ao, since you used to be a member of the Alliance, I'll give you a chance. Surrender and I won't kill you for now. However, I'll contact the Long family about this matter. As for your life and death, I'll make a decision later. Tong Tiandi still couldn't bear to kill Long Ao. Otherwise, if it were someone else, they would have done it long ago. P.S. Delivered to Chapter 14. Long Ao's arrogance should have been despised and despised by countless people. But now, all the disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance stared at the young man in front of them. He was dressed in black and had long blood-red hair. No one laughed, and no one showed a trace of disdain or contempt. Regardless of whether Long Ao could leave the Martial Artists Alliance safely or not, his courage alone was worthy of everyone's respect. The Martial Artists Alliance was one of the 10 great forces. Whether it was in terms of strength or background, it was the real deal. Even the other 9 super forces didn't dare to offend the Martial Artists Alliance, let alone Long Ao. His face was full of admiration. If it wasn't for Long Ao's insistence, Tong Tiandi wouldn't have killed him. Everyone wanted such a talent. Yeah, kill him. Since the other party didn't want to talk about the 5-element servant, Tong Tiandi didn't want to waste any more time. Shangguan Iya was overjoyed. She couldn't wait to kill Long Ao. Yes, Alliance Master. Before anyone could react, Shangguan Aya turned around and appeared in front of Long Ao like a ghost. Long Ao, you sent yourself to me. Since you killed Yang Jian and Wang Hao, you can join them in hell. Shangguan Aya struck with her palm. Long Ao didn't meet force with force. The five elements servant came in front of Long Ao and took the palm head-on. He wasn't hurt at all. They weren't surprised at all. After all, the defensive power that the mysterious old man had just shown had deeply shocked them. Humph! Tong Tiendi snorted coldly. He moved even faster and struck the five elements servant directly. According to the five elements patriarch, the five elements servant could even withstand the attack of a Nirvana realm warrior. But what was the result? With Tong Tiendi's palm, the five elements servant was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Long Ao was shocked. He didn't expect Tong Tiendi to be so powerful. No one could hurt the five elements servant. Tong Tiendi sent the five elements servant flying with just one palm. He didn't dare to lose the five elements servant. Long Ao's spiritual soul moved. The five elements servant, who had been sent flying, disappeared and returned to Long Ao's body. Tong Tiendi didn't do it himself. He returned to his original position coldly. His intention was clear. Shangguan Aya wasn't a fool. She sneered and rushed out again. Without the five elements servant to fight, Long Ao had to do it himself. Shangguan Aya was too fast. In addition to Tong Tiendi's powerful strength, Long Ao didn't have time to react. He met Shangguan Aya's palm head-on. With the protection of the Saint of Desolation body, Long Ao's body was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his face turned pale instantly. He spun in a circle, but his body was on the verge of collapse. Shangguan Aya and the others were surprised that the palm didn't kill Long Ao. Shangguan Aya had full confidence in her strength. Not to mention a demigod, even a supreme divine path warrior wouldn't be able to withstand her move. Long Ao, I'd like to see how you're going to take my second palm, the space-time wheel. Long Ao knew very well that if he didn't use the space-time wheel to escape, it would be impossible for him to escape under the siege of Tong Tiendi and the 8 Deputy Alliance Masters. Although Long Ao knew the consequences of using the space-time wheel by force, he was still prepared. If Shangguan Aya continued to attack him, he would immediately use the space-time wheel to escape. Shangguan Aya didn't know what Long Ao was thinking. However, in everyone's mind, Long Ao was already a turtle in a jar. If Long Ao could escape under such circumstances, everyone could die, let alone Shangguan Aya. A dragon's roar was heard. Before Shangguan Aya could make a move, a terrifying aura had already suppressed him. P.S. Something urgent happened today. I'll update 2 chapters. I'll write more in the 2nd chapter. I'll update more tomorrow. Please forgive me. Chapter 1172. A man and a dragon descended from the sky. Long Di Tian, 9 firmaments divine dragon. Looking at the man and dragon in front of him, Tong Tiendi said word by word. Not only Tong Tiendi, everyone was shocked. Long family patriarch and Dragon Clan patriarch had descended at the same time. What was going on? Long Ao was also surprised. He did not expect Long Di Tian to appear so suddenly. The 9 firmaments divine dragon turned into a tall and sturdy man in black with a cold expression. Brother Tong, Brother Long, both of them were super warriors in the Sky Martial Continent. They were both in the top 10 of the Heaven ranking. Long Family and Martial Artists Alliance were both part of the 10 great factions. On the surface, nothing seemed to be going on, but in reality, these 2 superpowers were fighting both openly and secretly. They both wanted to deal with each other and increase their own strength. Brother Long, why have you come to the Martial Artists Alliance? He sneered in his heart. Of course, Long Di Tian knew that Tong Tiendi knew why he was here. He was just pretending. Shameless. Brother Tong, my intention is simple. Although Long Ao did something wrong, he is still a disciple of the Long family. Even if there is a punishment, it should be settled by the Long family. As expected, everyone looked at Long Di Tian with anger in their hearts. Long Ao had openly provoked the Martial Artists Alliance. If this was handed over to the Long family, the Martial Artists Alliance would lose face. Brother Long, are you saying that you want to take Long Ao away? That's right. I hope Brother Tong can give me face. Give your sister. Everyone looked down on the Long family patriarch in their hearts. However, with Long Dtion's strength and status, no one dared to say anything. Tong Tiandi's face was gloomy. He sneered and said, Brother Long, I believe you know what Longao did. If you were in his shoes, what would you do? From beginning to end, Longao didn't say a word. He did not know what Long Dtion wanted to do, but it was precisely because of this that he had to remain still and observe carefully to see what Long Dtion wanted to do. Brother Tong, I'll take Longao away first. As for the other matters, I'll personally explain them to you later. How about it? If it were any other matter, Heavenly the Archtong would definitely give him some face since Long Dtion had already said so. But now? Longao had openly provoked the alliance and killed more than 50 disciples. If he was taken away by the Long family, where would his face be? What about the reputation of the Martial Artists Alliance? Wouldn't the Martial Artists Alliance tell the whole world that the Martial Artists Alliance was afraid of Long family? As the leader of the Martial Artists Alliance, Tong Tiandi knew that no matter what happened, he had to put the interests of the alliance first. Therefore, Longao could not leave, nor could he be taken away by Long Dtion. Otherwise, the Martial Artists Alliance would lose face. Brother Long, I'm sorry. Tong Tiandi's meaning was very clear. Long Dtion was not an idiot. Of course, he understood what Tong Tiandi meant. However, he was not angry at all. Instead, he asked, what if I insist on taking Longao away? Fight. Tong Tiandi's meaning was very clear. If Long Dtion forcefully took Longao away, the Martial Artists Alliance would undoubtedly choose to go to war. When that time came, the consequences of the war between the two superpowers would be unimaginable. For a long time, the two superpowers had been very wary of each other's strength. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, neither the Martial Artists Alliance nor the Long family would casually make a move. This was because they could not bear the consequences. Brother Tong, I'll say it again. Longao is a disciple of the Long family. No matter what happens, I will take Longao away. Even if it means a battle to the death, I will not hesitate. However, I hope that Brother Tong will give me some face. Unafraid of a battle, Tong Tiandi's expression became even more gloomy. The Long family's strength was there for all to see. If it was just the Long family, they could directly ignore it. However, behind the Long family was the entire Dragon Clan. As such, once a battle broke out, it would be hard to tell who would win and who would lose. For a moment, Tong Tiandi and Long Dtion did not speak. Since the two superpowers did not speak, the rest of the people in the surroundings did not dare to speak either. They all stood in place. Unknowingly, the disciples of the Martial Artists Alliance surrounded Longao. Their intentions were very clear. As long as the Alliance Master gave the order, regardless of Long Dtion's status, they would all rush forward. Time slowly passed. No one knew how much time had passed. Brother Long, I already know what you mean. However, I will also tell you from my standpoint. No matter what happens today, Longao cannot be taken away. A great battle was about to break out. One wanted to take away Longao, while the other did not allow it. The final result would be a great battle between the two superpowers. However, everyone knew that this was the Martial Artists Alliance, not the Long family. Once a battle broke out, the one who would suffer in the end would be Long Dtion, not Tong Tiandi. Before Long Dtion could speak, Tong Tiandi suddenly said, Brother Long, there is something that you don't seem to know. Just now, Longao released more than 200 divine dragons. I wonder if Brother Long knows about this? Tong Tiandi was very concerned about this question. This was because if the answer was different, then the result would be different. If this was done by Longao alone, then the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family would be at peace. However, if this was a promise from the Long family, then the situation would be completely different. More than 200 divine dragons? Hearing Tong Tiandi's words, Long Dtion was very surprised. He turned around, looked at Longao, and asked, Longao, what's going on? Of course, Long Dtion knew what the appearance of more than 200 divine dragons meant. If it was the elders of the family, then it would make sense. However, for Longao, this matter was a little strange. Whether or not Longao could be taken away was a matter for the future. The problem now was that he had to figure out the matter of more than 200 divine dragons. Shameless. Longao's good impression of Tong Tiandi was completely gone. This was because he could not let Long Ditian know about the divine dragon corpse slaves. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. If the Long family knew that he had entered the dragon tomb, tricked all the divine dragon souls into the dragon seal space, and refined them into divine dragon corpse slaves, it was obvious what the consequences would be. Because of this, Longao was very clear that no matter what happened, this matter had to be kept a secret. He could not let Long Ditian know about the divine dragon corpse slaves. Patriarch, I will explain this matter to you later. No, I want to hear it now. Long Ditian obviously did not want to miss this topic. If he did not figure out the matter of 200 divine dragons, he would not be able to explain it to his old companions. Although the 9 firmaments divine dragon did not speak, his face was extremely gloomy. This was because he also wanted to know what was going on with the 200 divine dragon corpse slaves that Longao had summoned. Other than the Long family elders and the dragon clan elders, who else could do this? Speak. The 9 firmaments divine dragon's voice was extremely cold. If Long Ditian was not stunned, the 9 firmaments divine dragon would have really attacked. Seeing this situation, Tong Tiandi heaved a sigh of relief. This was because he was not a fool. Long Ditian obviously did not know about this matter. As long as it was not the intention of the Long family, this matter would be much easier to handle. In the end, Long Ditian was very afraid of the Long family and the Dragon Clan. Shangguan Iya, who was at the side, sneered in her heart. It seemed that she did not need to do anything. As long as Longao could not explain the reason, she believed that Long Ditian and the 9 firmaments divine dragon would not let him go. Primordial divine dragon. 4 words, just 4 words, just 4 words. Other than those 4 words, Longao did not say anything else. Furthermore, it was a spiritual sense transmission. The others, including Tong Tiandi, did not know what Longao had said. Long Ditian and the 9 firmaments divine dragon were extremely shocked. This chapter was updated at 11:08 a.m. Chapter 1173. The battle was about to start. Everyone held their breaths. Once the battle started, it would mean that the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family had completely fallen out. The battle between the 2 superpowers would have a huge impact on the entire Tianwu continent, not to mention the impact it would have on the 2 superpowers. Brother Long, if that's the case, we can only fight. Accept the challenge. Long Ditian's challenge, Tong Tiandi's challenge. The surroundings became quiet. The 2 of them stared at each other. In the next second, both of them suddenly disappeared. Before the crowd could react, the 2 superpowers had already started fighting. They were infinitely close to the peak of martial arts. There was no need to talk about their strength. There was no earth-shattering battle. There was no aura fluctuation. The 9 Heavens Divine Dragon did not make a move. The 2 of them fought for 30 rounds, but there was no clear winner. In fact, everyone knew that the Alliance leader had lost and Long Ditian had won. But one had to know that Long Ditian alone was able to fight against the Alliance leader. If the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon was added, would the Alliance leader be able to fight back? One palm. The 2 of them both retreated 10 steps. There was no clear winner. They were in big trouble. Brother Long, thank you. Not only Long Ditian, but everyone else also knew what Tong Tiandi's thanks meant. In this battle, Long Ditian did not ask the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon for help. Otherwise, Long Ditian would definitely win. Brother Long, no matter what happens today, I will not let you take Longao away. Otherwise, I will not be able to answer to the Alliance. Tong Tiandi had made up his mind. Longao had openly provoked the Alliance and killed their disciples. Moreover, Long Ditian had personally come. If Long Ditian took Longao away, how would he face? How would the Alliance's face be left? If this matter was spread, wouldn't it tell everyone that he and the Alliance were afraid of Long Ditian? Afraid of the Long family? As the Alliance leader, Tong Tiandi would never let such a thing happen. This time, Long Ditian had already decided to take Longao away, no matter what happened in the Martial Artists Alliance. Furthermore, just now, Longao had mentioned the primordial divine dragon and the 200 divine dragons. This way, Long Ditian was even more determined to not let Longao stay. Longao could not die. Whether it was for the dragon race, Long family, or about the ancestor, Brother Tong, even if we fight for 3 days and 3 nights, we still won't be able to determine the victor. Regarding this point, Tong Tiendi expressed his agreement. As long as the 9 Firmaments divine dragon did not make a move, Tong Tiendi was confident that he could contend against Long Ditian. After all, the two of them were about the same in terms of strength. In that case, until now, Tong Tiendi still couldn't understand how a small Longao could attract the master of the 3 super forces to come here. Now, it was impossible for the Martial Artists Alliance to keep Longao here. Brother Sima, Brother Morong, the grudge between me and Longao seems to have nothing to do with you. You want to take Longao away just because of our friendship? Aren't you looking down on the Martial Artists Alliance? Do you think that the Martial Artists Alliance is easy to bully? Tong Tiendi didn't panic in the face of danger. He looked at the 3 people in front of him and didn't back down. The more they acted like this, the more he knew that he couldn't back down. Otherwise, who knew what would happen in the future? Longao was also a bit confused. Why did Long Ditian, Morong Guena, and Sima too all want to help him? He could understand Morong Guena and Long Ditian's actions, but what about Sima too? Longao wasn't an idiot, but he knew that Sima too already knew about the matter between him and the 5 Elements Patriarch. Otherwise, Sima too wouldn't have offended the Martial Artists Alliance by helping him. After all, under normal circumstances, no matter who it was, between him and the Martial Artists Alliance, they would choose the Martial Artists Alliance. Longao was also a bit confused. He didn't know what was going on. After this battle, regardless of whether he could leave the Martial Artists Alliance safely or not, he believed that his name would spread throughout the Tianwu continent. Chapter 1174. In the Tianwu continent, there were 10 factions. Under normal circumstances, the 10 factions would not fall out with each other. Furthermore, the master of each faction was present. Everyone knew that once they fell out with each other, it would be very difficult to mend their relationship. Brother Tong, the 3 of us will give you an explanation regarding Longao later. His face was gloomy. The 3 master were gathered in the Martial Artists Alliance. Even if Tong Tiendi was unwilling, he could only agree. Thank you, both of you. Goodbye. Wait. Hearing Sima Tu's words, Long Ditian was very curious. He asked, Brother Sima, what do you mean? Sima Tu and Morong Guena looked at each other. Sima Tu smiled and said, Brother Long, there are many things that my 5 Elements sect has not figured out. I hope that Longao can come with me. Without giving Long Ditian any chance to speak, Sima Tu continued, Brother Long, don't worry. I will not mistreat Longao. After I figure out some things, Longao will return to you in one piece. What do you think? If it was any other matter, Sima Tu would have already said so. He believed that Long Ditian would at least give him some face. But now? Long Ditian smiled and said, No. Longao, who was at the side, was very depressed when he saw that everyone wanted to take him away. When did he become so popular? Although Tong Tiendi had already given up on keeping him, Longao knew that no matter who he went with, it would not be a good thing. Who would do something that did not benefit them? Not to mention these so-called old foxes. That was exactly the case. Longao had already decided that no matter what happened, he would not go with anyone, not even Long Ditian. You guys, wait. Everyone looked at the person involved. The 4 master of the 4 great forces, Morong Guena, Long Ditian, Tong Tiendi, and Sima Tu all looked at Longao at the same time. Each of them wanted to see what Longao meant. Longao, what do you mean? The 4 of you, I'm not an object. You can't take me away just because you want to. The 4 of them didn't take it seriously, because in their eyes, Longao was already a turtle in a jar. How could he possibly leave? The 4 of them remained silent, waiting to hear what Longao had to say. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. What did that mean? Before the four of them, including the others, could react, a mysterious and strange power suddenly erupted from Longao's body. The space-time wheel. In the end, Longao still used the space-time wheel because he knew very well that he couldn't follow anyone under such circumstances. The only way was to use the space-time wheel. Longao was very clear about what the space-time wheel meant. Previously, he had almost been obliterated by the backlash when he forcefully used the space-time wheel. Longao knew that if he forcefully used the space-time wheel this time, it was unknown whether he would survive or not. He was a little depressed. This time, he was indeed a little reckless. Longao only wanted to protect the secret of the primal chaos stone tablet. That was why he disregarded everything and chased after Yang Jin and Wang Hao to enter the Martial Artists Alliance and fight a life and death battle with the Martial Artists Alliance. Since he was reckless, he could only pay the price for his recklessness. He no longer cared about life and death. Longao only wanted to leave now. He couldn't leave with any of the four of them. The space-time wheel forcefully broke open the space tunnel, and a terrifying black crack appeared. Seeing this, everyone was shocked, not knowing what had happened. Longao. Ignoring the four of them, Longao stepped into the space-time tunnel. In the blink of an eye, his body disappeared without a trace. The space-time tunnel disappeared, and so did Longao's body. The four of them were dumbfounded. Everyone was dumbfounded. How did Longao do it? The four of them looked at each other. They didn't know where Longao went. However, there was one thing that the four of them were sure of. Longao had indeed disappeared. Longao had charged into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed over 50 of their demigods and divine disciples. The news of him killing them had already spread throughout the Martial Heaven continent. Just as Longao had thought, no matter who won or lost in this battle, his name would completely shake the entire Sky Martial continent. Other than Longao, who would dare charge into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and kill their disciples? Everyone was guessing just who Longao was. Not long after, Longao's matter was dug out. For Longao, not only did the Long family Long Dtion personally come, even the sect master of the Five Elements sect, Sima Tu, and the Sword sect master, Emperor Oken, and Murong Guena had all come to the Martial Artists Alliance for Longao. Under normal circumstances, the four master of the four superpowers had all gathered in the Martial Artists Alliance. Not to mention Longao, even a Nirvana realm martial artist would be dreaming if they wanted to leave. But the result? Under such circumstances, Longao had actually left just like that. As for how Longao left, there were countless versions. The most exaggerated version was that a ray of light shot down from the heavens and silently took Longao away. The Long family, the Martial Artists Alliance, the Sword sect, and the Five Elements sect, the four superpowers, all started to search for Longao. For some reason, the four master of the four superpowers all believed that Longao was still alive. Although it sounded impossible, the four of them did have such a feeling. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. However, the four superpowers still hadn't found any traces of Longao. Every single one of them was incomparably solemn. This was especially true for Long Ditian and Tong Tiandi. One was doing this for the sake of the Alliance's reputation, while the other was doing this for the sake of the primordial divine dragon old ancestor. Long family, in the main hall. Long Ditian's expression was extremely gloomy, and his expression was as ugly as it could get. After all, 10 days had already passed, and he still hadn't found Longao. If the other three superpowers found Longao first, he would be in big trouble. Father, the primordial divine dragon that Longao mentioned might just be a stalling tactic. He actually doesn't know about it. He nodded, then shook his head. Long Ditian sighed deeply and said, Tong Tiandi wouldn't lie to us about this. Longao summoned 200 divine dragons for no reason. If we don't figure this out, let alone other things, I won't be able to explain it to the Nine Heavens divine dragon. Regardless of whether Longao knows about the primordial divine dragon or not, we have to find him first. Father, in the vast sky martial continent, if Longao hides, it won't be easy for us to find him. With regards to this, how could Long Ditian not know? You have to do this secretly. Don't let Longao know. Remember, No matter what happens, you have to find Longao as soon as possible. Do you understand? Longbo had never seen his father like this before. He didn't dare to say anything and said, "Father, I'll do it right away. Don't worry, I'll definitely find Longao. P.S. 5 chapters today, 10 chapters tomorrow. I wish everyone a happy Christmas Eve." Chapter 1175. As the great elder of the Long family, Long Hang already knew about Long Ao's situation. Long Hang was shocked that Long Ao was still alive and had barged into the martial artists' alliance alone. He was still alive after entering the forbidden area? Such a thing had never happened before in the Long family. Long Hang knew Long Dtion very well. This family head would never touch something that did not benefit him. Moreover, the family head's actions this time meant that he had completely fallen out with the Martial Artists Alliance. Everyone knew what the Martial Artists Alliance meant. That was right. In order to find out what had happened, Long Hang also sent out countless experts to search for Long Ao's whereabouts. At the Martial Artists Alliance, in the main hall, other than the Alliance Master, Tong Tiendi, who was sitting at the head of the table, there were 4 people sitting on his left and right. They were the 8 Vice Alliance Masters of the Martial Artists Alliance. The entire main hall was silent. No one said a word. No one knew how much time had passed. "Alliance Master, we still don't know if Long Ao is dead. Now, the Long family, Sword Sect, and 5 Element Sect are all looking for Long Ao. If they find us first, we will be in a passive position." Shangguan Yi's meaning was clear. The 4 superpowers were all looking for Long Ao. Now, it was time to see who would find Long Ao first. He nodded. If it was in the past, Tong Tiendi might have wanted to keep Long Ao here. However, after the 5 Elements Sect and Sword Sect intervened, Tong Tiendi no longer paid any attention to Long Ao. If he found Long Ao now, there was only one way to deal with him, and that was to kill him. "Alliance Master, what should we do now?" "Find Long Ao first. Send out everyone to search for him." "Yes, Alliance Master." The 8 vice leaders all stood up with serious expressions on their faces. This concerned the Alliance's face, and if they could not find Long Ao, the Alliance would lose all face. Tang Hao was extremely unwilling to kill Long Ao, but things had already come to this point. No matter how unwilling he was, he could only endure the pain and kill him. The 8 vice leaders left the hall. Just as the 8 of them left, Hades suddenly appeared. "Alliance Master, if Yuan finds out about this, I'm afraid." Hades didn't finish his sentence, but the meaning behind his words was clear. Both Hades and Tong Tiendi were well aware of the relationship between Yuan and Long Ao. The 2 of them were almost certain that if Yuan knew about Long Ao, Yuan would definitely leave the Martial Artist Alliance. How could the 2 of them agree to such a thing? "We can't let Yuan know about this." "Alliance Master, we can't keep this a secret." Hearing this, Tong Tiendi's face darkened. The Alliance had spent so much effort to cultivate Yuan, and he couldn't let her leave so easily. Moreover, Yuan was his hope, and also the Alliance's hope. He knew about this, and so did Hades. As for the others, they knew nothing. "Hades, I have a way to make Yuan forget Long Ao forever." Hearing the Alliance Master's words, Hades was shocked. Hades wasn't an idiot. Of course, he knew what the Alliance Master was talking about. Hades couldn't wait any longer. He said anxiously, "Alliance Master, if we use this method, Yuan's cultivation speed will be hindered," and Hades wanted to say something, but hesitated. He continued, "I will do my best to delay Yuan until Yuan breaks through to the Nirvana realm. Even if we use this method, I believe it won't be much of a hindrance." Nodding his head in agreement, Tong Tiendi continued, "Yuan can't have the slightest mishap. Long Ao must die." Hades already knew about Long Ao's matter. He had charged into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed dozens of their disciples. This kind of thing had never happened before. If Long Ao didn't die, how could the Martial Artists Alliance establish itself in the Tianwu continent? Because of this, Long Ao's death was certain. 5 Elements Sect. Sima too, who also hadn't found Long Ao, was also very helpless. That was because the old ancestor had already ordered him to protect Long Ao. Although he didn't know what the old ancestor meant, Sima too didn't dare to disobey. Others might not know what the five-element slaves were, but as the sect master of the five-element sect, Sima too naturally knew. There was no doubt about it. The sect master of the five-element sect, Sima too, was almost certain that the five-element slaves were given to Longao by the old ancestor. The more it was so, the more curious Sima too was. What was the relationship between the old ancestor and Longao? Not only that, Sima too was even more surprised. The so-called Longao was actually the black wolf who had entered the five-element sect. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would have found it hard to believe. Could it be that the person who had attracted the five elements light was Longao? Was he the so-called black wolf? If that was really the case, Sima too could almost guess the old ancestor's meaning. If he could recruit Longao, it would definitely be an unexpected benefit for the five-element sect. If that was really the case, Sima too was very clear that no matter what happened, he had to find Longao first. In the main hall of the sword sect. Father, we don't know whether Longao is alive or dead. I don't care what you do, you have to find Longao for me. This time, the sword sect master, Murong Guena, did not hesitate to provoke the martial artists alliance in order to take Longao away by force. It was all because of his daughter. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so bored as to provoke Tong Tiendi. Yenner, Longao created the martial artists alliance on his own this time and made a ruckus at the martial artists alliance. It was a bit reckless. If we find Longao first, we'll be fine. But if others find Longao first, we'll be in big trouble. Father, how did Longao leave? Murong Yenner was very curious about this. After all, Longao could do this without paying a price. Even if he was beaten to death, he wouldn't believe it. Because of this, Murong Yenner was very worried about Longao. Taking a step back, even if Longao didn't have the slightest bit of backlash, once the other three superpowers found him, the consequences would be unimaginable. I don't know. I believe a lot of people want to know about this. I have to admit that this kid has some guts. If he can join our sword sect, it might not be a bad thing. Father, aren't you afraid of the other three superpowers? I'm not afraid. When has our sword sect ever been afraid of anyone? Yenner, I know what you're thinking. Longao is to my liking. Don't worry, I'll definitely find him. How could Murong Guena not know what his daughter was thinking? However, he truly admired Longao's courage and talent. For such a person, provoking the martial artists alliance and Long family was more or less worth it. Thank you, father. Murong Yenner did not continue to force her father. After all, everyone was looking for Longao. She wanted to see who would find him first. Chapter 1176. Dragon Peak. Dragon Sect's main hall. Long Ying and Dugu Bai's expressions were extremely ugly. In the entire Dragon Sect, only the two of them knew that Longao had returned with injuries. He had fallen from the sky, covered in blood. Longao had forcefully broken through time and space and used the space-time wheel to return to Dragon Sect. He had only said one sentence, "Don't let anyone disturb and don't let anyone know." Master, it seems that Brother Long is in trouble. He nodded. I've just received news that seventh brother broke into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed more than 50 of their disciples. Then, Longing told him about Longao breaking into the Martial Artists Alliance alone. After hearing it, Dugu Bai was also shocked. Master, what should we do now? It's simple. No matter what happens, seventh brother's matter must not be leaked. Dugu Bai knew what the master meant. This matter could be big or small. He could tell at a glance. Dragon Peak, Back Mountain. In an extremely secluded courtyard, Longao had forcefully used the space-time wheel and was almost killed by the space-time tunnel due to the backlash. If it were an ordinary person, this would definitely be the result. However, Longao's situation was completely different. At the most critical moment, Jinling and Bai Ling, together with Long Fu's help, forcefully resisted the space-time tunnel's attack. What did that mean? This in itself was enough to prove that Jinling, Bai Ling, and Long Fu's strength were super strong. If this news were to spread, who knew if people would choose to believe it? Longao sat quietly on the ground, wholeheartedly focusing on his recovery. Longao knew very well that he had forcefully used the space-time wheel this time. If he was not careful, he would be doomed eternally. For 10 whole days. Slowly opening his eyes, Longao let out a long sigh of relief and muttered to himself, "I'm finally alive." A white figure flashed. Bai Ling appeared and said worriedly, "Brother Long, you're lucky this time. You weren't killed by the space-time tunnel. If there's a next time, can you promise me that from now on, you won't use the space-time wheel by force?" Longao knew what Bai Ling meant. Would he be able to leave the Martial Artists Alliance without using the time wheel? Unless it was a last resort, no one would be willing to use the space-time wheel. Others might not know, but how could Longao not know? Forcefully activating the space-time wheel was equivalent to gambling with one's life. Bai Ling, I promise you. Longao couldn't bear not to agree. After all, Bai Ling's kindness and everything about Bai Ling were all for him. After chatting with Bai Ling for a while, Longao endured the pain in his body and found Longying and Dugu Bai. "Seventh brother, are you okay?" Seeing Longao suddenly appear, both Longying and Dugu Bai were extremely worried. 10 days ago, Longao's injuries were so serious that they didn't even know if he was dead or alive. Seeing that Longao was fine, the two of them were more or less relieved. "I'm fine, brother. The news of my return wasn't leaked, right?" Longao knew that he had broken into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed more than 50 of their disciples. He had also attracted the Long family, the Sword Sect, and the Five Elements Sect. Longao was almost certain that once the news of his return to the Dragon Sect was leaked, the 4 superpowers would come looking for him. If that was really the case, how should he deal with it? With the Dragon Sect's current strength, how could it fight against the 4 superpowers? The Sword Sect, the Five Elements Sect, and the Long family's motives were still unknown. However, Longao was certain that the Martial Artists Alliance would definitely deal with him. Not only him, but the sect behind him would also suffer. That was precisely why. Longao knew that no matter what happened, he couldn't let the Martial Artists Alliance know that he had returned to the Dragon Sect. He couldn't let the sect get involved in this battle. The sect would definitely rise in the Tianwu continent, but now wasn't the time. When the thousands of people in the sect had all refined the Divine Dao inheritance and become Divine Dao martial artists, they would only have strength that was infinitely close to a second-rate power. If they were to rise at this time, they would probably be destroyed as soon as they appeared. "Seventh brother, don't worry. Other than the 2 of us, no one else knows about your return." Hearing this, Longao finally heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Big brother Dugu, this matter is very important. I believe you've already heard about me and the Martial Artists Alliance. From now on, you have to develop cautiously, or even stop." Dugubai and Longying didn't say anything. They already knew about Longao and the Martial Artists Alliance. They also knew that Longao would definitely have more to say. "Try to hide the matter of the Dragon Sect as much as possible. We can't let the Martial Artists Alliance or the other superpowers know." They nodded. Dugubai and Longying naturally wouldn't ask too much. The 2 of them knew what to ask and what not to ask. They also knew when to ask and when not to ask. Dugubai and Longying didn't dare to be the slightest bit careless. They immediately took action. For the sake of safety, the 2 of them decided not to develop for the time being. They had to completely hide. That was the safest way. The 4 superpowers were frantically searching for Longao. Longao already knew about the rumors outside, as well as the movements of the 4 superpowers. However, he knew that as long as he didn't make a move, it wouldn't be easy for the 4 superpowers to find him in the vast martial heaven continent. However, Longao also knew that if this continued, there would be trouble sooner or later. No one knew when the 4 superpowers would discover him. Once his tracks were exposed, it wouldn't just be him. Even his sect would be destroyed. Thus, Longao began to quietly think about what to do next. He wanted to see how to deal with the 4 superpowers. Outside the Dragon Peak, the master of the 5-element gate, Sima Tu, and the 5 vice masters were the master of the metal element gate, Su Hai, the master of the wood element gate, Gu Feng, the master of the water element gate, Luo Ningxue, the Master of the Fire Element Gate, by Yushir, and the Master of the Earth Element Gate, Wu Ling. Looking at the 6 of them, Longao would be lying if he said he wasn't shocked. He really couldn't figure out how the 6 of them had found him. Should I call you Black Wolf, or Longao? Whatever. Seeing that he wasn't the slightest bit afraid or apprehensive, the 6 of them were a bit surprised. As expected of someone who dared to fight against the Martial Artists Alliance, the 6 of them greatly admired him. Whether or not Longao defeated the Martial Artists Alliance, just this courage alone was worthy of their respect. P.S. Today is Christmas Eve. My wife suddenly wants to go to the movies. There's no way around it. I can't write the last chapter. Tomorrow, the 10 chapters will explode. Everyone, please forgive me. Happy Christmas Eve. Chapter 1177. I really want to ask, how did you find this place? Longao was very curious about this. Under normal circumstances, as long as the news was not leaked, even the 4 super forces would not be able to find him in the vast Tianwu continent so quickly. Longao believed in his big brother and Dugubai. The 2 of them would not casually reveal this matter. In that case, how did the 5 Elements sect find him? Longao, you have to know that we are friends, not enemies. Longao did not speak, but looked coldly at the 6 people in front of him. I already know that you have met the old ancestor. It seems that the old ancestor values you, otherwise, he would not have given you the 5 Elements slave. I see. Hearing Sima Tu's words, Longao breathed a sigh of relief. You are right. The 5 Elements slave was given to me by the 5 Elements patriarch. In that case, you and I are indeed friends, not enemies. After confirming that the 6 people were not here to cause trouble, Longao breathed a sigh of relief. This was the dragon sect's base. Once a battle broke out, the fish in the moat would be affected. At this moment, Longao had already guessed how Sima Tu and the others had located his location. If he was not wrong, it should be the 5 Elements slave. Thinking of this, Longao felt more or less uncomfortable. It would be a lie to say that he was not afraid. In the dragon sect's main hall, the 9 people sat down. No matter what, Longying and Dugu Bai were the master and vice master of the dragon sect. Longao, I believe that you are already aware of the situation in the continent. Now that the Martial Artists Alliance is looking for you, you have acted a little recklessly this time. Of course, Longao had already received news that the Martial Artists Alliance and the Long family were looking for him. Otherwise, he would not have sealed the dragon sect and not leaked this information. Sect Master Sima, I believe that this is not the only reason you came to find me, right? Longao was not a fool. If Sima Tu brought the 5 vice sect masters here just to tell him that the Martial Artists Alliance was looking for him, then Sima Tu would be in a bit of a pain in the ass. Sima Tu said straightforwardly, Longao, you and I are both straightforward people, so I will not beat around the bush. Longao did not speak. Longying and Dugu Bai did not speak either. Since the patriarch value you so much, Longao, if you are willing, we can form an alliance. I believe that when that time comes, even the Martial Artists Alliance will not dare to attack. Regardless of whether others believed it or not, he absolutely did not believe it. If it was before, Longao would definitely not agree, because he firmly believed that there was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. It was impossible for the 5 Elements sect to be so kind to help him. But now, Longao knew very well that after he broke into the Martial Artists Alliance alone and killed their disciples, he and the Martial Artists Alliance were in a situation where one of them had to die. Even if he was willing to let go of this grudge, would the Martial Artists Alliance be willing? Not to mention, other than the Martial Artists Alliance, there was also the Long family eyeing him covetously from the side. He established the Dragon Sect and did not die in the Forbidden Area. Plus, Long Hang was a threat. Everything seemed to be disadvantageous to him. If he could form an alliance with the 5 Elements sect, then things would be much easier. As one of the top 10 sects, the 5 Elements sect's deterrence was real. Just as Sima Tu said, once the Dragon Sect and the 5 Elements sect joined forces, even the Long family and the Martial Artists Alliance would not dare to attack. Sect Master Sima, Since you've already put it this way, I'll get straight to the point. At this point, Longao did not hold back. After all, in an alliance, he would get as much as he could. The Five Elements sect might not be afraid, but he could not help but worry. Please speak. Sect Master Sima, once we form an alliance, to be honest, I believe you know the strength of the Dragon Sect. I hope that after the alliance, you can help the Dragon Sect. What do you mean? He sneered in his heart. Long Ao cursed in his heart. Sima too was indeed an old fox. He knew what was going on, but he pretended not to know. He was simply shameless to the extreme. Although he cursed in his heart, Long Ao said with a smile, Sect Master Sima, what I mean is very simple. After the alliance, I want to develop the Dragon Sect quickly. I hope you can help me. Just as Long Ao had guessed, Sima too already knew, but he did not want to promise. However, with the old ancestor's words, Sima too could only agree even if he was unwilling. Until now, Sima too still did not know why the old ancestor gave the Five Elements slave to Long Ao. After all, they knew very well what the Five Elements slave represented. The old ancestor did not even give the Five Elements slave to him, but to an outsider. He felt very uncomfortable. Sima too was even more shocked. Long Ao, an outsider, not only attracted the Five Elements light that had not appeared in 10,000 years, but also cultivated the power of the Five Elements. According to the old ancestor, if it was not for the fact that Long Ao did not have the Five Elements body, it was not impossible for him to take over his position. According to the old ancestor. Even so, Long Ao was a genius that had not been seen in 10,000 years. If he continued to cultivate the power of the Five Elements, it would not be a small matter. How could Sima too not understand the old ancestor's meaning? Long Ao, I understand what you mean. Okay, I promise you. However, with the current strength of the Dragon Sect, don't go too far. If you attack the other 9 forces, forgive me for being powerless. Sima too nodded. Long Ao did not expect Sima too to help him deal with the other 9 super forces. Not to mention himself, even if the Five Elements sect personally took action, not to mention 1 against 9, the Five Elements sect might not be able to win even in a one-on-one situation. Sect Master Sima, thank you. Just like that, the 2 sides reached an agreement and formed a temporary alliance. However, Long Ao did not fully trust the other party. It was still the same sentence. Whether the Five Elements sect was a friend or a foe, no one knew. If the Five Elements sect had ulterior motives, the one who would suffer in the end would be him. As the saying goes, caution is the parent of safety. After sending off the 6 people of the Five Elements sect, Dugu Bai said somewhat anxiously, Brother Long, do you really trust the Five Elements sect that much? Long Ao naturally knew what Dugu Bai meant. The 3 of them sat down and Long Ao said, I don't. Since you don't trust them, why do we still have to ally with the Five Elements sect? If the Five Elements sect plays tricks behind our backs, we will be in a very passive position. 7th brother, Brother Dugu is right. The Five Elements sect is not a good thing. Chapter 1178. Big Brother Dugu, with our Dragon Sect's current strength, without using the Divine Dragon Corpse slaves, how many people do we have? 0. Although they didn't want to admit it, they knew that it was the truth. In the Tianwu continent, if it was a second-rate force, there would definitely be a Supreme Divine Realm martial artist. There were even rumors that the top 3 second-rate forces even had Nirvana Realm martial artists. Long Ying and Dugu Bai looked at each other and saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. 7th brother, what should we do now? Ally. Long Ao had more or less thought about this matter. Otherwise, he wouldn't have agreed to ally with the Five Elements sect this time. 7th brother, I know what you mean, but if we ally with the Five Elements sect, if they play dirty, how should we deal with it? Long Ao was very clear about the worries of Dugu Bai and Long Ying. He smiled. Long Ao said without the slightest bit of worry, I have full confidence in the Five Elements sect. However, you all should not relax in the slightest. This time, I want to take over the Five Elements sect and develop the strength of my Dragon sect. The two of them were very worried in their hearts. However, since Longao had already said so, even if the two of them were unwilling in their hearts, they could only agree. Tianwu continent. It had been more than half a month since Longao broke into the Martial Artists Alliance alone. The four superpowers, the Sword Sect, the Long family, the Five Element Sect, and the Martial Artists Alliance, were all looking for Longao's traces at the same time. It was easier said than done to find a person in the vast sea of people. Just as everyone was speculating about Longao's fate, the Five Element Sect suddenly announced to the world that they had formed an alliance with the Dragon Sect. The moment the news came out, it shocked the world. If it was just the Dragon Sect, it wouldn't be a big deal. But in the next second, the spokesperson of the Dragon Sect, Longao, personally came out and announced the alliance between the Dragon Sect and the Five Element Sect. The Five Element Sect and the Dragon Sect had formed an alliance. What kind of concept was this? Not only was Longao not dead, but he had even created the Dragon Sect and formed an alliance with the Five Element Sect. All of this had left everyone completely confused. They had no idea what was going on. This time, Longao did not let go of any opportunity to form an alliance with the Five Element Sect. In the following period of time, Longying and Dugu Bai led the Dragon Sect. With the help of 200 mystical dragons and the Five Element Sect, they developed rapidly. Their development speed increased by 100 times. Now that things had come to this point, the encouragement in Longao's heart had disappeared. No matter what, Long family already knew about the 200 mystical dragons. Since that was the case, why not use them? However, it should be known that using the mystical Dragon Corpse slave or not was a completely different concept. Long family. When Long Ditian, Long Bo, and Long Heng heard that Longao had formed an alliance with the Five Element Sect, they were all extremely shocked and furious. Other than being angry at Longao, more importantly, they were angry at the Five Element Sect. Longao's matter this time had basically provoked the Martial Artists Alliance. He had even implicated the Long family. This was something that everyone in the world knew. Since that was the case, why did the Five Element Sect choose to form an alliance with Longao? Provoking the Sword Sect, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Long family? Or could it be that from the beginning to the end, the Five Element Sect had never taken the Sword Sect, the Martial Artists Alliance, and the Long family seriously? Father, Longao is here. Who? Hearing his son's words, Long Ditian seemed to be a little shocked. This was because he did not know why Longao had come to the family at this time. Before Long Bo could speak, Longao's figure had already entered the hall. Longao greets the clan leader. Looking at the young man in black with blood-red hair in front of him, Long Ditian's heart was filled with admiration. Not to mention other things, just Longao's courage was already worthy of everyone's admiration. It was a pity that such a person did not belong to the Long family. Long Ditian was not a fool. Longao's actions time and time again had already made Longao's intentions clear. He was very dissatisfied in his heart, but Long Ditian knew that even if he was dissatisfied, what could he do? Longao, since you are not willing to come back with me, why did you come back? Clan leader, back then at the Martial Artists Alliance, as long as I left with you, I believed that the Martial Artists Alliance, the Sword Sect, and the Five Element Sect would all point their spears at you at the same time. I will bear the consequences of my own mistakes. I do not want to implicate the family. Longao spoke as if he was thinking for the family, causing Long Ditian to be a little stunned. He clearly knew that Longao was being shameless, but there was nothing he could do. Longao, what's going on with your alliance with the Five Element Sect? Without waiting for Longao to speak, Long Ditian snorted coldly, and his face instantly became gloomy. Longao, previously in the Nine Provinces continent, you established the Dragon Sect without permission. Seeing that you were young and ignorant, I did not pursue this matter. But now, you actually established the Dragon Sect in the Sky Martial continent, and even formed an alliance with the Five Element Sect. Let me ask you, where do you place my Long family? Longao's actions clearly showed that he did not place the Long family in his eyes. As long as Longao did not leave the Long family, then Longao would still be a member of the Long family. As long as he was a member of the Long family, then Longao would not be able to establish other sects without permission, let alone forming an alliance with other forces. If such a Long family could still endure it, then it would not be a Long family. Without the slightest bit of surprise or fear, Longao had already guessed it. Otherwise, he would not have returned alone. In the eyes of outsiders, Longao's actions were like a sheep walking into a tiger's den, walking right into a trap. Longao was very calm. Just the aura released by Long Di Tian alone was very difficult to suppress Longao. After all, Longao possessed the aura of heaven and earth, and had even condensed it into his sword force. Regarding this, Long Di Tian already knew. Master, the hierarchy of the Long family has already been told to everyone. Other than the Long family, the rest of the lower Long family are not members of the Long family at all. Long Di Tian did not speak, but his face became more and more gloomy. This was because the Long family was divided into 9 levels. The higher the level, the stronger the strength. The Long family was a level 1 Long family. Longao's family was only a level 9 Long family at the beginning and had advanced to a level 6 Long family. But even so, the family did not have any status in the eyes of the huge Long family. My family is only a level 9 family. Long family, when have you ever cared about our life and death? Longao sneered and continued. Regardless of life and death, even if it is a Long family's martial technique, we are not qualified to cultivate it. As for the ancestral hall, we are not even qualified to enter it. As disciples of the Long family, why are we like this? I am not convinced, and I believe that many people are not convinced. I believe that the patriarch understands this point better than I do. But in all these years, has the patriarch ever cared about this matter? P.S. I spent the whole day with my wife on Christmas and returned home before 9 o'clock. The second chapter has been delivered. Even if I don't sleep tonight, I will finish the 10th chapter. Chapter 1179. He was speechless. How could Long Di Tian not know the drawbacks of a Long family's hierarchy? There was nothing he could do. Even if Long Di Tian was the patriarch of a Long family, he was helpless against the drawbacks of the hierarchy. The reason was simple. The hierarchy of the Dragon Clan had been established over countless years, generation after generation. It was impossible for Zhang Xian or his generation to achieve such a feat. Patriarch, to be honest, from the very beginning, I have never thought of myself as a member of a Long family. Thinking back to the past, Longao was just a piece of trash in the Scarlet Fire Town. In front of the huge Long family, the level 9 Long family was the lowest existence. Under normal circumstances, no matter what level the Long family was, they all belonged to a Long family. With the power of the Long family, no one should dare to provoke them. But in the end, the level 9 Long family could be trampled on by anyone. Even the level 6 Long family did not care about the fact that they belonged to a Long family and could bully the family without restraint. What was the use of such a Long family? If the Long family took care of the low-level families, wouldn't Longao want to leave the Long family for no reason? In the end, Longao did not have a sense of belonging. Regarding this point, not only Longao, he believed that many low-level Long family members felt the same way. Longao, what do you want? Long Di Tian's expression became uglier and uglier, because for countless years, such a thing had never happened in the Long family. Patriarch, from now on, my family and I will officially withdraw from the Long family. Longao, how dare you? Hearing Longao's words, Longbo was instantly enraged. His killing intent seemed to have materialized as it fiercely suppressed him. If not for the divine mathematician's words, Longbo and Long Di Tian would have already attacked and killed Longao. The two of them knew very well what it meant for Longao to be expelled from the Long family without permission. Once this matter spread out, the consequences for the Long family would be unimaginable. Ever since the establishment of the Long family, there had never been a case of a low-level Long family breaking away. Go on. In the end, Long Di Tian still held himself back and said the same thing. The godly mathematician's words were still ringing in his ears. There was no trace of fear on his face. Clan leader, I believe that in your eyes, a low-level clan is not even worth a fart. Since that's the case, it doesn't matter if I leave my Long family or not. At this moment, Longbow was furious to the extreme. Longao, you're too arrogant. Don't think that we won't dare to kill you. Longao was almost certain that there was something fishy going on with Long Dtion. Otherwise, he would have already dealt with him. According to Longao's previous plan, at the very least, he would wait until the dragon sect rose to prominence before slowly breaking away from the Long family. However, with the development of the situation, it seemed that he could no longer wait until then. Long family wouldn't offend the martial artists alliance for him. If they didn't break away from their Long family, it wouldn't be easy for them to form an alliance with the Five Elements sect. After thinking about it, Longao finally decided to stake it all and break away from the Long family, even if he had to become enemies with the Long family. This time, since Longao dared to go to the Long family alone, he must be very confident. He took a deep breath. Waving his hand, Long Dtion said coldly, "Get out, father. Get out. Without my command, no one is allowed to enter. Those who disobey will be killed without mercy." Seeing that his father was really angry, Longbow didn't dare to say anything else. He slowly left the hall and personally guarded outside. There were only two people left in the hall. One was Longao, and the other was Long Dtion. The two of them looked at each other, but no one said anything. For a moment, the entire hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Time passed bit by bit. After an unknown period of time, Long Dtion sighed deeply and said helplessly, "Longao, how could I not know what you just said? Even as the patriarch of the Long family, I can't do anything about it." Longao didn't say anything. Instead, he walked to the side and sat down. The division of ranks has already been formed. It can't be changed in a short period of time. Longao, do you know why I didn't kill you? The clairvoyant. Regarding this matter, Longao had already roughly guessed it in his heart. If not for the godly mathematician, would Long Dtion have let him off so easily? It was completely impossible. That's right. It's the clairvoyant. He already said that you will be the savior of my Long family, so I won't kill you. Thank you. Longao, I agree to let you leave the Long family. However, you must promise me that no matter what happens to the family in the future, you must help the family. Long Dtion's request was difficult, but it wasn't difficult either. Longao was very clear that if it wasn't for the clairvoyant, he believed that he would be in trouble. However, since Long Dtion had already said so, if he didn't agree, the Dragon Sect and the Long family would definitely fight. With the Dragon Sect's current situation, it was impossible for them to fight. After thinking about it, Longao finally nodded and agreed. Patriarch, I can agree to this, but you have to promise me one thing. Speak. I hope that you can help the Dragon Sect develop. The most important thing right now was that without strength, it would be difficult to survive in the Tianwu continent. Longao wouldn't let himself be taken advantage of. Such a rare opportunity, he wouldn't easily give it up. No problem, I will do my best to help you. Longao, everything has been settled. Now, I want to ask you, what's going on with the primordial divine dragon and the 200 divine dragons? Longao didn't tell him the whole truth. He only added a few things of his own. That was the gist of it. Patriarch, to tell you the truth, 3 years ago, I saw the remnant soul left behind by the primordial divine dragon. He gave me the divine dragon pearl and a trace of his remnant soul's energy. I entered the dragon tomb and refined the dragon souls inside into slaves. Longao jumped in fright, but when he heard that it was the primordial divine dragon's actions, he instantly understood. The primordial divine dragon's intentions were very simple. He wanted me to take these slaves and develop the dragon sect. When the Long family and the dragon race are in trouble, I can help you. Longao's deception could be said to be watertight. Even Long Dtion did not have the slightest bit of doubt. Longao, since the primordial divine dragon has chosen you, I trust that the divine diviner's prophecy won't be wrong. Long Dtion sighed in relief. The dragon race and the Long family's 10,000-year calamity would come. Who knew when it would come, or how to resolve it? Now that he had a plan, How could Long Tion give it up so easily? First Elder, the Patriarch has ordered that no matter who it is, no one is allowed to barge in. Otherwise, they will be killed. Don't try to trick me. I've already heard that Longao is inside. P.S. The third chapter has been delivered. Little Nine will do his best to write the remaining 7 chapters. Upload them as soon as possible. Chapter 1180. Outside the main hall. Longhang's face was filled with anger because the Patriarch did not inform him that Longao had entered the Long family. Wasn't he looking down on him? The entire Long family knew about this. The Patriarch and the Great Elder were like fire and water. They had always been fighting openly and secretly. In order to fight, the two of them had chosen Longao as their opponent. The more Long Tion wanted to protect Longao, the more Long Hang wanted to kill Longao. Long Hang, don't be so shameless. Ha ha ha, Longbo, you are only a disciple of the family. Whether you can become the Patriarch in the future is still unknown. With your status, do you have the right to speak to me like this? Indeed. As the Great Elder of the Long family, even Long Tion had to be courteous to Long Hang, let alone Longbo daring to go against the Patriarch already showed Long Hang's status and identity. Come in. Before Longbo could continue speaking, Long Tion's voice came out from the main hall. Longbo, if you have the ability, go challenge the first on the Earthboard. With that, Long Hang went around Longbo and entered the main hall. Longbo, who was standing in his original position, had a gloomy face after hearing this. As the first in the Long family, he did not have the strength to challenge the first on the Earthboard and could only barely enter the top 3. To him, this was a great humiliation. In the main hall, the moment he stepped in, Long Hang saw Long Ao sitting on the right and sneered in his heart. Patriarch, Great Elder, why are you looking for me in such a hurry? Asking the obvious. Long Tion clearly knew why Long Hang had come this time, but he pretended not to know. Patriarch, Long Ao. Before Long Hang could speak, Long Tion had already guessed what Long Hang wanted to say. Waving his hand, he stopped Long Hang from continuing. Long Tion said, Long Ao did not die after entering the forbidden evil abyss. Then, everything that happened before will be written off. From now on, no one is allowed to mention it. Long Tion wanted to help Long Ao, so he naturally would not give Long Hang any chances. He cursed in his heart. Long Hang did not force him. No matter what, Long Tion was still the head of a Long family. There were some things that could not be overdone, as it would not benefit him at all. Clan leader, let's not talk about this. I've received news that Long Ao released 200 Divine Dragons at the Martial Artists Alliance to kill the Martial Artists Alliance disciples. I want to ask him about the Divine Dragons. Why should I tell you? Long Ao didn't give Long Hang the slightest bit of respect. Anyway, Long Ao knew that he and Long Hang had reached a point where one of them had to die. Long Hang wanted him dead, and he wanted him dead as well. Since that was the case, there was no need to pretend. Although he was a little angry, Long Hang eventually suppressed his anger and said, Clan leader, the matter of the mystical dragon is of great importance. I hope that the clan leader can get to the bottom of this. Otherwise, if the dragon tribe pursues the matter, it will be difficult for us to answer. Using the pressure of the dragon clan, he had to admit that Long Hang was really shameless. Great Elder, Long Ao has already explained this matter to me. As for the details, I will hold a meeting with the elders later. At that time, I will tell you. He was unwilling. If Long Ao didn't die, wouldn't it mean that Long Tion had one? Long Hang would never let such a thing happen. He said coldly, all right, I won't ask about this matter. Long Ao, I want to ask you. You established the Dragon Sect without permission. Not only that, but you also formed an alliance with the Five Elements Sect. Do you even put my Long family in your eyes? Long Hang was full of confidence. If Long Ao couldn't give a good explanation, just this point alone was enough to take Long Ao's life. Long Hang, no, Great Elder, I have something to ask you. I hope you can answer it for me. Long Hang didn't say anything, but it meant that he agreed. Why do you care so much about my matters? I'm puzzled. As the great elder of the Long family, you don't care about other things. Why do you care about my matters? Do you have nothing better to do? Without waiting for Longao to speak, Longao continued. Whether I establish the dragon sect or not, what does it have to do with you? Whether I form an alliance with the five elements sect or not, what does it have to do with you? Endure. In the end, Longao couldn't endure it. Longao simply didn't put him in his eyes. If he could continue to endure it, then he wouldn't be the great elder. Moreover, if this matter were to spread, where would his face go? Longhao's body moved. As a Nirvana realm martial artist, Longhao's strength was needless to say. When he punched, ghosts and gods would cry. Longao clearly used his full strength in this punch. His intention was very clear. He wanted to kill Longao. Would Longao be afraid? Longao stood in the same place, motionless. His face was filled with contempt and disdain. Seeing this, Longhao's heart thumped. Longao stood still. Could it be that he had a trump card? Longao didn't believe that a mere ninth firmament demigod martialist would be able to withstand a punch from him. Boom. That punch was enough to split a mountain. But what was the result? It was like hitting a ball of cotton. No matter how hard Longao tried, the cotton didn't move. It was like a bottomless pit. Looking at the mysterious old man who suddenly appeared in front of him, Longao was shocked. He hurriedly retreated and asked coldly, "Who are you?" Long Dition definitely knew the five-element slave, but Longao didn't. His face was filled with shock. The fact that the other party could withstand his punch was enough to prove his strength. At this moment, Longao finally knew why Longao was so fearless. Why Longao dared to return to the Long family alone. It turned out that he had invited help. No wonder he was so arrogant. Enough. Long Dition was obviously impatient. He said coldly, "Great Elder, Longao has already left the Long family. Therefore, it's normal for him to establish a sect. You don't have to make a fuss." Hearing this, Longao was stunned. Longao had left the Long family. To the Long family, this was a great humiliation. Not only that, the patriarch actually agreed. What kind of concept was this? He wasn't angry. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised. "Patriarch, as the great elder of the family, I have the right to ask about this matter. As the patriarch, you should put the family's interests first. But now, Longao has left the family, and you don't care about it. I really want to ask you, how can you face the ancestors of the family?" In order to deal with Long Dition, Longao didn't hesitate to use the Long family's ancestors. Hearing this, Longao was depressed. Longao didn't say anything. This was a battle between the two of them. There was no need for him to get involved. This time, Long Dition was also unexpected. As for Longao, they were destined to be enemies for life. P.S. The 4th chapter has been delivered. The remaining 6 chapters will be done by Little 9 as soon as possible. Chapter 1181. Longao, what do you want? Long Dition, I request for an elders meeting immediately. At that time, I will definitely make you leave the patriarch's seat. Longao was very annoyed by the internal strife between the two of them. "Patriarch, if there's nothing else for me, I'll take my leave." Just as Longao was about to leave, Longao sneered, "You want to leave?" Although he was afraid of the mysterious old man beside Longao, this was still the Long family's territory. Was it possible for one person to fight against the entire Long family? F***ck after cursing, Longao did not continue to stay. His body had already disappeared into thin air. "You want to leave?" Longao struck out with his palm, but the five-element slave was already waiting for him. This palm strike was like hitting cotton and had no effect at all. Whether Longao left or not, Longao actually did not care. He only cared about one thing, and that was to use this opportunity to eliminate Long Dition. As long as Long Dition came down, he would become the new patriarch of the Long family. That was exactly the case. Longao did not chase after Longao. Instead, he forced Long Dition to convene the elders' meeting. He was prepared to kick Long Dition out of the patriarch's seat and replace him as the new patriarch. Long family. 2 hours later, the elders' meeting, which had not been held for 3 years, was held without any warning. Ordinary elders could not participate in the elders' meeting. No one knew if Long Dtion would win or if Long Hang would lose in the competition. The next day, Long family spread the news that Long Ao and Long Zong had left the Long family at the same time. From now on, Long Ao was no longer a disciple of the Long family. Once this news spread out, it completely shook the entire Sky Martial continent. If it was before, no one would care. But the situation was completely different now. Long Ao had broken into the Martial Artists Alliance by himself, killed over 50 of their disciples, and disappeared right under the noses of the 4 super experts. After the battle with the Martial Artists Alliance, Long Ao's name had spread across the continent. It could be said that there was no one who did not know about it. Furthermore, after the battle with the Martial Artists Alliance, not only did Long Ao establish the Dragon Sect, but he also formed an alliance with the 5-Element Sect. All of this made Long Ao even more famous. That was indeed the case. Long Ao had left his Long family, but the Long family did not react at all. This was not normal in itself. Was the Long family afraid of Long Ao? It seemed a little hard to believe, but nothing was absolute. If that was the case, then things would be much better. Many people were speculating about the matter between Long Ao and the Long family. Countless people wanted to see the chaos caused by Long Ao. After all, in this situation, it was best to avoid provoking a powerful enemy. 7th brother, since you know it's dangerous, don't go. Dugubai and Long Ing were very worried. The two of them knew that the reason the Dragon Sect could develop so quickly was all because of Long Ao. However, the price was extremely high. No one knew when Long Ao would die. After all, the people he would have to face were the peak experts of the Martial Heaven continent. Long Ao was very clear about their worries. He smiled. Big brother Dugu, don't worry. Back in the 9 provinces continent, I personally climbed the 99 steps of the heavenly stairway and saw Yi Dugu's clone. He's not bad. This time, he might not be suspicious of me. Perhaps he wants to form an alliance with us. At that time, our Dragon Sect's development speed will continue to rise. Was that possible? It didn't matter if others believed it or not. In any case, the two of them didn't believe it. However, Long Ao's words had already reached this point. No matter how unwilling they were, they could only nod. 7th brother, I know we can't stop you, but you have to promise us one thing. No matter what happens, you have to return safely. When Grandpa Rough handed you over to me, I didn't want anything to happen to you. Do you understand? Brother Long, your life and death concerns the life and death of the entire Dragon Sect. So even if it's not for yourself, you have to think of others. Long Ao nodded. It was just as Dugu Bai had said. His life and death also concerned the lives of many people, including his family and brothers. So he couldn't die. Author's note. Copy of Chapter 5. Chapter 1182. Heaven and Earth Sect, one of the 10 directions. This time, Yi Dugu did not summon Long Ao at the base camp. The summoning method was very special. It was the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven, ancient desolate town. In this place, there was no tripartite balance of power. There were only a few small powers, sects, and clans. The reason why ancient desolate town appeared was because in the center of ancient desolate town, there was a huge stairway. It was the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven. Every day, many people rushed to ancient desolate town from all directions in order to climb the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven. Long Ao entered ancient desolate town and directly came to the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven. He raised his head and looked over. At the top of the clouds, he still couldn't see the top of the Stairway to Heaven. Until now, Long Ao still found it hard to imagine how Yi Dugu did it. Not to mention the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven, just the 99 steps of the Stairway to Heaven was a very difficult thing to set up. He didn't want to find trouble, but trouble came knocking on his door. He didn't continue to dwell on it. Anyway, it had already happened. Longao knew very well that this matter couldn't be avoided no matter what. Since it had already happened, why not face it calmly? Thinking of this, Longao didn't continue to hesitate. He finally took a step forward and stepped onto the 99 steps of the stairway to heaven. Not to mention the current Longao. Even when he was in the 9 provinces, Longao had already climbed to the top of the 99 steps of the stairway to heaven twice before he became a demigod. It was precisely because of this. Longao stepped onto the 99 steps of the stairway to heaven for the 3rd time. It could be said that he was familiar with it. In just a few minutes, he had already reached the top of the stairway to heaven. At the top of the stairway to heaven, there was a pavilion surrounded by white clouds. It was very beautiful. Senior Yi. There was almost no need to guess. Longao had already confirmed that the gentle and elegant middle-aged man in front of him was the sect master of Heaven and Earth sect, Yi Gudu. After all, they had already met before. Longao, please take a seat. It was very polite. Yi Gudu's attitude directly took a 180-degree turn. Longao knew very well why. Anyone could guess that there was something unusual about the alliance between the 5-element sect and the sword sect. Longao did not stand on ceremony as he entered the pavilion and sat down. Longao, this is tea brewed with the finest snow lotus water. Have a taste. He nodded. Longao picked up the jade cup on the jade table and drank all the tea in the cup in one gulp. Even if he didn't understand the way of tea, Longao could still taste that this tea was extraordinary. Thank you, Senior. Longao could clearly feel that as the tea entered his body, it instantly flowed through his entire body. In just a few seconds, his cultivation had increased by a lot. A peak demigod of the 9th heaven. If he hadn't experienced it himself, Longao wouldn't have believed that there was such a godly item in this world. Just a cup of tea could raise one's cultivation level by 1 level in a few seconds. How terrifying was that? A cup of tea could raise one's cultivation level. If he drank 10 buckets of it, wouldn't he be able to break through to the Nirvana realm? Looking at Longao, Yi Gudu seemed to be able to see through Longao's thoughts. He smiled and said, "The snow lotus water is very useful for martial artists the first time they drink it. If it's the second time, it won't be of much use." I see. No matter what, this time, in less than 10 minutes, he had already raised his cultivation level to the peak demigod of the 9th heaven. It was always an unexpected good thing. The peak demigod of the 9th heaven was only one step away from officially condensing the divine soul and breaking through to the divine realm. Although the difference between the demigod of the 9th heaven and the divine realm was only 1 level, the gap between the two was like heaven and earth. They couldn't be compared at all. Straight to the point. Longao asked, "Senior Yi, I wonder why you're looking for me this time?" Longao, I already know everything about you. Longao didn't interrupt. Because with Yi Gudu's strength and identity, if he wanted to know about his matters, it was almost a matter of minutes. It was an easy matter. So what if he knew? Longao, I won't ask much about your alliance with the 5-element sect and the sword sect. I won't care too much. Hearing this, Longao cursed fiercely in his heart. His face also became slightly cold. Shameless. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen such shameless people. What did the alliance with the 5-element sect and the sword sect have to do with you? Could it be that Yi Gudu had nothing better to do? Yi Gudu laughed. Longao, I don't mean anything else. I'm just curious. With your current situation, the 5-element sect and the sword sect are actually willing to ally with you. Not only that, the Long family didn't do anything to you. Longao was very clear about the meaning of Yi Gudu's words. Not to mention Yi Gudu, even others would be very curious. Because according to normal circumstances, since he had left the Long family, with the strength and identity of the Long family and their stinginess, would they agree? Of course, Longao wouldn't tell Yi Gudu the truth. Senior Yi, let's get straight to the point. Longao didn't want to continue dilly-dallying. He didn't believe that Yi Gudu had nothing better to do and invited him here just to drink a cup of tea. If that was really the case, Yi Gudu wouldn't be worthy of being the sect leader of the Heaven and Earth sect. Chapter 1183. The Heaven and Earth Chessboard. Yi Dugu gave a general explanation of the Heaven and Earth Chessboard. The Heaven and Earth Chessboard used Heaven and Earth as a guide to form an independent space. In the entire martial Heaven continent, only the Heaven and Earth sect's disciples could enter it. For so many years, countless people dreamed of entering the Heaven and Earth Chessboard, but the Heaven and Earth sect's power and foundation were there. Let alone ordinary people. Even the other 9 superpowers didn't dare to casually enter the Heaven and Earth chessboard. 6 hours later, Longao left the top of the heavenly stairway. As soon as Longao left, the God Diviner appeared. If Longao was still here, it was unknown what he would think. Lord God Diviner. Even Yi Dugu immediately got up and bowed respectfully when he saw Master God Diviner. In the martial Heaven continent, the 10 direction cauldrons weren't the peak existences. The 10 master chessboards weren't the strongest martial artists either. Perhaps ordinary people didn't know, but how could Yi Dugu not know? In this world, there were 2 strongest martial artists. One was the heavenly Daos, and the other was the God Diviner. As for the God Diviner, he was known as the #1 person on the martial Heaven continent. Even the heavenly Daos couldn't contend against him. Satisfied, the God Diviner said indifferently, "You did well. Dugu, remember this. When Longao enters the Heaven and Earth chessboard, everyone will rely on their own ability. You're not allowed to help him." Yi Dugu didn't know what the God Diviner meant. For the God Diviner to help Longao like this, Yi Dugu had thought that the 2 of them had a very good relationship. He hadn't expected the God Diviner to not let him help. The God Diviner's actions completely confused Yi Dugu. Dugu, the Heaven and Earth sect is my direct descendant, and you were raised by me. There are some things you should ask, and some things you shouldn't ask. There are some things you should know, and some things you shouldn't know. Do you understand? Yes. How could Yi Dugu not understand? Yi Dugu didn't dare to say a single word. Whatever the God Diviner said, he would do it. After Longao enters the Heaven and Earth chessboard, you have to help the Dragon sect's development. Yes, sir. Yi Dugu heaved a long sigh of relief when he saw Master Godly Mathematician disappear into thin air. Longao did not return to the Dragon sect. After all, going from Ancient Desolate Town to the Dragon sect, and then back to Ancient Desolate Town from the Dragon sect would take at least 5 days. Even if he used spatial teleportation, it would still take 2 days. But even so, Longao didn't do that. The reason was simple. 3 days later, he would enter the chessboard of Heaven and Earth. He knew nothing about the so-called chessboard of Heaven and Earth, so he had to focus on his cultivation, hoping that he would be able to find an opportunity in the chessboard of Heaven and Earth. He wrote a letter and sent it back to the Dragon sect as quickly as possible. Instead of leaving, Longao stayed in Ancient Desolate Town. One of the entrances to the Heaven and Earth chessboard was the Ancient Desolate Town. Aside from Yi Dugu, very few people in the Tianwu continent knew about this. The Ancient Desolate Town was not too big. The total population was no more than 300,000. It was not as prosperous as a big city. In Ancient Desolate Town, there were 10 great clans and 10 great sections. For 20 factions to enter Ancient Desolate Town at the same time, it was easy to imagine how chaotic it was. As Longao wandered around, he thought about all sorts of things, especially the godly mathematician, Yi Dugu, the 10 directional cauldrons, and the Heaven and Earth chessboard. Yi Dugu did not say it clearly this time. However, Longao was certain that Yi Dugu's request for him to enter the chessboard of Heaven and Earth definitely had something to do with the godly mathematician. Otherwise, given Yi Dugu's status, he would not casually meet him. According to Yi Dugu, the Heaven and Earth chessboard was a cultivation sage emperor. It was a forbidden land of the Heaven and Earth sect. Without Yi Dugu's orders, no matter who it was, even the Heaven and Earth sect's disciples could casually enter the Heaven and Earth chessboard. Not to mention ordinary disciples, even inner sect disciples and core disciples could not casually enter the Heaven and Earth chessboard of Heaven and Earth. The more this was so, the graver Longao became. Longao had no understanding of the Heaven and Earth chessboard of Heaven and Earth. Once he entered, no one knew whether he would live or die. Big Brother Long, Find a secluded place. I have something to tell you. Longao, who was aimlessly beating, suddenly heard Bai Ling's words. He was very curious because he knew very well that if there was nothing important, Bai Ling would not be so anxious. Longao did not hesitate at all and immediately found a very secluded place. Bai Ling, what's the matter? A white figure flashed and Bai Ling appeared in front of Longao. Big brother Long, my sister and I just sensed some kind of aura. What kind of aura? Big brother Long, come with us? Longao was very curious. He did not know what was going on with Bai Ling. What kind of aura did the two Jinlings sense that made Bai Ling's expression so grave? Thinking about it, he knew that it was not as simple as it seemed. Longao did not continue asking. He followed Bai Ling's aura all the way to the east. About 30 meters, they arrived at a restaurant. Longao followed Bai Ling's instructions and disappeared from the restaurant. About 10,000 meters underground, there was a huge cave.